name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. Give him a hand. Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing. Approval of the agenda. What are the wishes of the board?
Second.
First and second. Discussion.
Hey, we're in discussion. Did you have something you'd like to add?
The CFO would like to request to add to the agenda is item 9P. You have at your spot there. It's discussed and will take action on bill number 2014-19, ordinance number 841.
I hate to do that again, but can you give me that
Sure,
ordinance
no, that's
number?
fine. It's bill number 2014-19, ordinance number 841.
Yeah.
Would there be any other additions or deletions this evening? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Item number 3 is citizens' comments. Thank you, sir. Citizens' comments. We have 2 citizens. You have 3 minutes to share your comments. Ms. Joyce Prentice, welcome.
Y'all have a lot to discuss, so I'll get right to it. I would like to ask this Board of Commissioners to reject their certificate of occupancy for 7215 Old Franklin Road for the Williamsport Estate subdivision. I feel until the independent investigation is submitted, reviewed, and action is taken to correct any wrongdoing and mistakes made by Toddy Construction Company or other parties is made, and if there's any money owed to the City of Fairview, that it is paid in full. The property in question should remain unoccupied, and the Toddy Construction Company should not be allowed to reap any monetary gains until this matter is resolved. Money that has been paid at the time of construction, if it was owed then, it's owed now. Not to mention additional tax money that has been spent on attorney fees, the cost of an independent investigation. I feel that the City of Fairview should be reimbursed for these costs as well. Now, I know nothing about building a subdivision, but then again, I'm not an experienced contractor. But I know I've never seen gravel roads in a subdivision, as I've heard they are in Williamsport Estates. In my opinion, it's just not hard for good people to do the right thing. There's a lot of Fairview citizens watching to see how the board is going to handle this matter. Please keep that in mind and reject their certificate of occupancy. I'm putting my faith in this board, and please don't let the citizens down. Thank you for letting me have my say.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Mr. John Cherry.
Thank you. I would like to put one of these right here. Zoom in on that, get whichever way it needs to go. Is it back the right direction?
Go upside down.
Oh, there.
Not that way.
Thank you. I'll be brief. This coming, the 2 events we have coming up. Saturday morning we have our clean sweep. We do twice a year in the spring and fall. We'll meet at Bank of America at 8 o'clock. The first 20 people that show up to help pick up and beautify Fairview will have breakfast served. And I think Sonic is providing breakfast burritos. We appreciate that. So please come out and help support us. Also, 3 days later on Tuesday, on May the 20th from 6 to 8:30, we're having our inaugural Taste of Fairview, which will benefit, all the proceeds will benefit Meals on Wheels. This charity is severely underfunded here in Fairview. The need keeps increasing, and the funds that they receive from a grant and also from the Mid-Cumberland Human Resource Agency, which I believe their funds come from the United Way, and some private donations. Their funds have pretty much been steady over the last 10 years or so, and the need keeps increasing. So they really need help. So the Chamber decided that we wanted to give back and support one of our charities this year, and this is the way we wanted to do it. So I had recently been to a Taste of Williamson a few months back, and got the idea that we should try to do this here. And as you can see, we've got quite a few sponsors. There are some that are coming that didn't make it to the poster, and we would like everybody to come out and support this. You can buy tickets at 4 or 5 different locations, at the Chamber office, at my office, at Big Dog, and at Old Town Antiques, which is one of the hosts, at Walker Books, at You Heavenly Dog. Danae is one of our groomers in town. And again, we'd love to have everybody support us. Tickets are $25. It is a fundraiser. So, and you'll get to taste all of these samples that these restaurants and food services will have for you. Thank you very much. We really appreciate that. And we have some exciting news coming up. We have a special guest at our July luncheon. I'll report on that at the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cherry. I appreciate that. I think that's a wonderful cause, and Meals on Wheels, I'm sure, will be very grateful. Thank you. Sounds like a fun evening. This evening, we have a business spotlight, Going Postal. Mr. Wayne Hall, would you like to introduce?
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Lisa Anderson, and is Ms. Emily Wade here?
Yes.
Okay.
Welcome. Congratulations.
Hello, Board and citizens of Fairview and all the staff. We've got an exciting new business that has just opened. We are in the Public Shopping Center right next to Gary's Place, and we're called Going Postal Fairview. We are open 9 to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, 9 to 2 on Saturday, and our phone number is 266-2685. And we're kind of a one-stop shop for all your postal needs. My name is Lisa Anderson. I'm an owner. And Emily Wade, she's my partner. She's an owner, and she's going to tell us about our services.
Hey, Board. We offer a variety of different things. Of course, FedEx shipping, UPS shipping, postal shipping, DHL, fax services, photocopies, printing and design, packing supplies, mailing supplies, office supplies, mailboxes. And what I mean by mailboxes is we have mailbox rentals that you can rent per month. And it's a great way to have your prescriptions delivered to your home without them being tampered with. We sign for everything. If you go out of town, your packages do not get left at your doorstep. We have greeting cards, notary services. Both Lisa and myself are notaries. And we sell stamps like the post office. And we're hopefully implementing our fingerprinting in just here shortly, in maybe a week or so. And that will help the community for the volunteers and all the other positions that require fingerprinting. Passports. So come see us.
And we do copying and printing in color and black and white. A lot of people don't have the opportunity to get something in our brochure that was shown we did ourselves. So we have a really nice color, real expensive color copier if anyone needs copying and printing done. So that's a little bit about us, and it's kind of a one-stop shop. You can do everything there. All the postal services, FedEx, UPS, everything.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I send stuff overseas sometimes, and we don't have that type of postal service here. You can't buy stamps at our post office for overseas, am I correct? Or?
We have overseas stamps and we ship overseas. We just recently shipped a package to Japan.
Okay.
And we do guarantee, we have services that guarantee overnight, first thing, 8 p.m. or 8 a.m. in the morning, 10:30, 4:30, 8 p.m. The very next day, we can guarantee those services.
And also military shipping as well.
Is that UPS and FedEx?
UPS, FedEx, DHL, and U.S. Mail. And we don't upcharge on stamps. We charge the same as the post office.
And we feel this is going to be a great addition to the community. There's several in Williamson County, Brentwood, Cool Springs, and Franklin already. And so just please come out and support us. We'd appreciate it.
Saves everybody with the gas prices a trip from going to Nashville to just ship and everything right here with us in our own community. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Welcome. Okay. Next on the agenda is awards and recognitions. And I would like to, in keeping consistent, do you have anyone that you'd like to? He was here, wasn't he? There were other people here. They're in the lobby. Okay.
Yeah, they're just out of luck.
Out of luck. At this time, I would like to welcome Dr. Oyer, the principal at Fairview High School. She has a special announcement she would like to share with Fairview.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
I actually am going to change it to 2 announcements, if that's okay.
Yes, ma'am.
The first thing I want to do is just let you guys know that it's not over yet, but we've had a wonderful year at Fairview High School this year, so we're happy to say that. But we want to keep the momentum going, and so we are going on a summer adventure like never before, and I want you guys to be aware of it so you can stop by and join in the fun. And then I'm going to maybe ask a little favor of you too. So this summer, for the first time ever, all of the schools will offer summer school. That's not new. We've always done that. But 2 days a week, we are going to have what's called Fairview One. ONE, and what that stands for is Onward Never Ending. So you guys know that all of our elementary schools feed into our middle school, and our middle school feeds in directly. So as a community, we start being Fairview Yellow Jackets really young. We just have other things that we are before we get there. And so 2 days a week, both elementary schools and the middle school will join us at the high school for a variety of different adventures. There's going to be all sorts of learning involved, but we're not telling the kids that. We're just doing hands-on fun. 2 of those 4 weeks in June, we're going to go on field trips. One will be into Franklin. We're going to go to the Franklin Theater and get a personal tour of the Franklin Theater, and then hopefully do some walking and driving tours on the trolley just to see things that some of our students haven't seen, get some history lessons, just some local exposure. And then on the other Thursday, we are going to go into Nashville and go to the Skirmerhorn. That Tuesday of the Thursday, the Nashville Symphony is coming to us, and we're going to have an instrument petting zoo, which is just a great opportunity for students who don't think they're musicians, who've never touched a violin. They get to just treat them like they're little pets and play with them. And then on that Thursday, we're going to go for a concert into the Symphony Hall and get a tour of the Symphony Hall, all private, just for us. So it's a really exciting opportunity for us. And like I said, we've never done it before. This is our first time, and we're incredibly excited about it. The favor, and it is last minute, and so I understand if there are things that you're not able to do because our request is coming late, but we would like to be able to purchase t-shirts for all of our students so that our little guys have the same t-shirts as our middle school students and high school students, so that when they see each other out in the community, they know, even if they don't remember the face, hey, you were at Fairview One this summer. So if there's any ability for the city to help us sponsor this initiative and help us get this off the ground, We budgeted really tightly for all of our supplies and budgeted really tightly to get all of their staff people there. And frankly, the t-shirts were kind of a last minute, oh, wouldn't it be cool? And a lot of our budget lines don't allow for that, as I know you understand. So if there's an opportunity for you to help us with that, if somebody can reach out and let me know, that's a possibility, and then we can exchange some numbers and talk about whether or not that's possible. Are there any questions about that? Okay.
Can you let us know a dollar figure on that?
$1,000 would get us in a very, very sweet spot. Okay. The next thing that I want to, and some of you may be familiar, have any of you heard of the Be Nice campaign that we started at the high school this year? I see some nodding heads. Good. That means that the word is out there. I won't tell you the story, but the short story is that I had an experience with an adult in an airport that was very frustrating to me, and I walked away from that saying, gosh, if people would just be nice to each other, if people would just be nice to each other. And I came back, and our student council, executive council was meeting, and we were talking about some issues that we had at the high school related to social media and digital citizenship. And I shared that story with them, and we engaged in a conversation about the power of just being nice. From that came the desire to just make that something that we did at Fairview High School, and we did a lot of work around it. An amazing moment for us was that we recently had the Williamson County Ambassadors come out, which is a small group of business people in the community, and they asked our students, about 30 students were involved with the original PSA that we did and with creating some flyers and putting things out. And they asked our students if there had been an impact at Fairview High School. And it was really powerful to hear the students talk about how there had been changes. And their answer was yes, it feels like a nicer place. It gives students an opportunity to kind of stand up to somebody who's being mean in a silly kind of way, like, hey, just be nice, and not have to be standing up to a bully. So we're very, very proud of what we've done. The exciting part, and the reason that I'm here to talk to you guys tonight about it, is that Williamson County Schools is adopting this countywide, which is an exceptional opportunity for great publicity for Fairview. But even that has grown into another element where local, we've had conversations with the emergency management folks. I think they've talked to Brentwood Fire, the Williamson County Sheriff's Department, and so all of these agencies are kind of jumping on board with Be Nice. And that's incredibly exciting. The request that we have for you, Mayor Toddy, is on behalf of Williamson County Schools, we would like to invite the city of Fairview to make a proclamation that on September 3rd, we make that Be Nice Day in Fairview. Several of the other cities that are involved in the Williamson County Schools have been invited to do so. And on that day, Wednesday, September 3rd, we'd like the mayor and any city commissioners, any city politicians, and our emergency management people to join us in Franklin to announce that in Williamson County, all of the cities involved in our schools are making this the Be Nice Day. So we'd like to invite you to do that. If that's something that you're able to do, we can communicate, but I just wanted to make a formal invitation to get the city on board with being nice.
Thank you. I'd be honored.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Dr. Ori, I believe you have shirts available for that also.
We do indeed. Thank you for publicizing. We have short sleeve for $10, long sleeve for $20, and be on the lookout for some new variety in that, just to keep it exciting. Thank you.
And before you leave, we have a presentation to give to you, so I'll turn the floor over to Commissioner Carroll.
Well, we happened to run into each other this morning, and I told Dr. Orier, oh, I got your check from the city. This is a check that probably is a little slow coming. We actually put it on the agenda, but things get busy. So we finally got the check for $5,000 that we would like to give to you for both the Bowie Park seedling project and the community garden. And I was asked by Deb to make sure we got a picture. So if you'll come up and join us. Deb's at Williamson County Schools, and her and Carol do a lot of publications. And so if you will come up for a second, we can take a photo. just to let, maybe Dr. Orrier can tell you more, but they have started the sidewalks, the handicap sidewalks. It's done,
Yes.
right?
I
And
think there's still a couple other things, but it's,
for the community garden, so we're going to need a lot of support. Anybody interested in helping, please come. Come here, come here. There you go. So everybody come here. Sorry, photo out. It's a great cause.
And this is the guy doing our budget, right?
thank you.
Yes.
Sure.
On behalf of the city of Fairview, I appreciate the contribution that you have given, or the contribution over and above that you have given to Fairview in your time here as Fairview High School principal, and we look forward to many future projects.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
A big job. Big job. Thank you.
Can I just one last comment? I don't know if all of y'all realize what Dr. Orrier has done for our community as far as our high school, the projects she's brought in, the positive energy. I was at the ambassador graduation and she was there, and the visit from this year's group, of course it did last year too, they are just so impressed with our schools, and and a lot of it is to the principals and the time they spent just explaining our community. And I just can't say enough how much I appreciate you coming into our community, loving us, loving our kids, and helping to inspire them to reach for their higher goals and expectations. So for that, I just can't thank you enough. And we love the partnerships, and I actually love that you came and asked for help, and that's something that we do appreciate, because we don't really always know what we can do to help, and so I appreciate that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you. Any other awards or recognitions this evening?
One second.
While they're doing that, Mayor, I would like to explain a little bit about Lane. Lane was elected mayor at Westwood Elementary School 2 weeks ago on Election Day, May the 6th. Junior Achievement partnered with the school on holding the election, and he actually ran against his best friend and another girl from his class, and he was fortunate enough to win. And today they got to go on a field trip, the entire 5th grade at Westwood, and participate in a mock city that Junior Achievement, it's called J.A. BizTown, at 100 Oaks Mall, and where he did represent us as the mayor, and then they had several different business leaders and a city treasurer and stuff like that. So that was the reason that he came out and participated in our meeting this evening. Thank you.
Any other awards and recognitions from the staff? Okay. Item number 6, public announcements.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Board of Commissioners. The usual announcement on the admission testing Tuesday and Wednesday of each week from 7:30 till noon. The City Hall will be closed Memorial Day, the 26th of May. High school graduation is next Friday. Mayor, I'll let you tell the time because I've forgotten the time. But
The Williamson County Ag Center at 7 o'clock on Friday, the 23rd.
Okay.
Any other?
Is that just going to be Fairview, or is that going to be several schools?
Just
To my
Fairview.
knowledge, just Fairview.
I didn't know.
Okay. Under public announcements, I would also like to announce the investigative report has been returned to the City of Fairview, and I will read the conclusion. After conducting a thorough investigation, we have determined that the approval of the Williamsport Estate subdivision was a serious oversight on Mr. Lavorne's part, and that Mayor and Walt Toddy were not wrongfully involved in that approval. The city could have possibly penalized Mr. Lavorne for this oversight. However, he resigned shortly after it was discovered. We have found no basis for bringing any action against Mr. Toddy or the mayor. In addition, we conclude that the city cannot require Mr. Toddy to go back and fix the deficiencies within the subdivision. Mr. Toddy built a subdivision based on a facially valid, approved plat. We recommend that the city grant after-built variances to clear up any discrepancies with the plat and the subdivision regulations. To avoid a similar situation from occurring in the future, the city should revise its subdivision regulations so that they are clearer and enact a check and balance system to ensure that the subdivisions are properly discussed, approved by the Planning Commission prior to being signed. And in respect to the inquiries that I've received, and I'm sure others, of what is the status is the report has been returned back to the City of Fairview, and I wanted to report that in the public announcements. Any other public announcements this evening? Item number 7, approval of the minutes from the March 6th Board of Commission meeting. What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a first and second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 7B is approval of the minutes of the May 1st public hearing.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes from the May 1st Board of Commissioners meeting. What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
First and second. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 8A, discuss and or take action on Williamson County trustee collection of City of Fairview property taxes. These items was discussed because they were deferred from a previous meeting, waiting on the elections to be complete, which are complete. What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve for discussion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for discussion. The floor is open for discussion.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we defer this until another timely manner after the newly elected county trustee is in office and we can get a fuller representation of how they're going to run this program.
Would there be a date of anything that you'd project there, sir?
I think 3 months into the tax season next year, so after the first quarter of next year. March. That'd give us a better outlook on how they're going to run the system.
Okay, we have a motion for approval for discussion, a second, so you've amended the motion.
Yes, I'm sorry.
The motion has been amended. Is there a second?
Yes, but I have a comment.
For deferment, we have a second. Discussion?
Yes, ma'am. I thought, well, I didn't understand, the election was just the Republican primary. The election has not been held until August.
That's correct, and that's the reason I want to defer it.
Well, I don't, my point is I don't think we need to take any action. The election is not over. We deferred it till after the election, which doesn't take place until August. The Republican primary is what we just had, not the election.
I understand. I didn't request this to be on. I just requested the deferred items, and it was placed, so I was going to walk through it.
I'm just
deferring it to March.
I'm just saying that
it's clear.
And I agree with you, and I think the amendment will cover that, because it will be after, if we wait till the end of March, it will be after the election.
Motion for deferment to March. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item 8B, discuss and take action on certificate of occupancy of 7215 Old Franklin Road for Williamsport Estate subdivision. City Manager Hall.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Toddy has asked me to put this on the agenda for release of the CO.
I'm sorry, can you speak up a little bit? Some people are having trouble in the back.
Mr. Toddy had asked me to put this on the agenda to release the CO, and it's on there for discuss or action, and it'll be a board decision.
Move for approval.
Second.
Discussion?
My question would be to Codes Department, has everything been completed that was recommended by the city engineer?
You mean as far as the house itself?
As far as is everything that's concerned with it, yeah.
Yes. On the house. Yes, it's been inspected and passed.
And so the roads and everything had nothing to do with that house?
No, sir.
Other discussion?
In your investigation, all fees were paid?
All fees have been paid. That we went back and found them 6 months later. The rezoning, the demolition, as well as the driveway permit. That was an oversight, by the clerk, and I just kept asking about them, and she finally went back far enough to find them.
If I might add something, from a legal standpoint, once prior to the investigation, I did some research myself before the investigation was started, because I wanted to know what kind of position we were in. The city did pay for that. It appeared in my bill over a period of time. After the report was released, I reviewed the report, and that was this month. I haven't billed the city for that yet, but I will. The part that I want to say to the city, that every piece of material that was referenced in that report, I have read. I did not bill the city for that. I do not intend to bill the city for the reading of the citations in the report. I thought it was important enough for me to review, and I wrote that down to my own personal experience. There were some things that I have that were not in there, but nothing that contradicts the report. I will say, I said this when I came here, and I've said it many times before, and after that, I cannot always tell you what you want to hear the law is. I have to tell you what it is, and that's based upon case law and the statutes. There are no statutes, there are no ordinances that would allow you to hold that permit any longer. To do so, in my opinion, would be wrongful. It would be actionable, and it would place this city and the board in a position that they cannot be defended. It would place you in a position of potential liability to the extent that some of the things that might be considered would be losing of the tort claims liability immunity for the board, which would subject you to personal liability. The only reason I'm saying this, I want to put on the record that you're advised of that. I know this thing, it was not, no one, I don't think, contends that everything was done the way it was supposed to be done. There was no evidence of any wrongdoing by anyone. It apparently was a millennium of mistakes. I won't say a millennium, but a laundry list of mistakes that should not have happened. I've already talked to Mr. Humber, and we're in the process of getting the codes, will be reviewed and will be brought up to date to a point that there will be enough checks and balances till this should not, I won't say anything could not happen, because sure as you do, it always happens, but it should not happen again. As to the Will's list of items that were not up to date, that as part of the plat process that needs to go, will have to go back to the Planning Commission. That will be, I'm sure, suggested, and I'm sure Ms. Humber will have that put on the Planning Commission in due time to be considered and appropriate action taken. But I did want the board to know two things. I reviewed the report. I think the report is accurate. I read every citation that was in there. The city is not paying me for that. I did that on my own. But I do have to caution you against, it's your vote, but I think you should know the state of the law, that there is no provision. The only provision that you have for holding something like that, I think you could reasonably hold it to get your investigation done. But once that has been done, the only way you would have to hold that is if there's something wrong with the house that doesn't meet the building codes, but anything relating to the plat, I don't think you can hold that, and it would be, in my opinion, wrongful. And you don't need to go there. It's the law is not always what someone might want it to be, might not be what I want it to be, but we are bound by what the law says, and there's nothing in our ordinances or in the statutes that would be justification for delaying that. Thank you.
So if I may, Mayor, so what you're saying is there's no recourse on the plat because the plat has already been filed?
That's, in essence, that's what I'm saying. There's no provision in the statute, the ordinance, to review it, to revoke a plat once it is facially validly filed. That plat was facially valid. Now, there is provisions for revoking anything that was obtained through willful, knowing that you can prove fraud. But on a facially valid plat, this is a facially valid plat. There's no provision for revoking that plat. There's no provision for bringing, that allows you to force me to bring it up to a standard that's in the plat. And the only way you could do that would be on the front end. That's the reason the checks and balances should be there. And if you come in with a development and you're not doing it according to the plat, then I don't issue you the building permit, or I don't approve the plat. It don't get recorded. You can't start. But once you get your plat, there's nothing there that says it's facially valid. You can go. Second
and last question, and I know you've read it because I've read it too, and I know you've read it probably much more closer and understand it better than I do. Is my understanding with the recommendation of the law firm that did that they found that there's no recourse to the city whatsoever as far as repairing that, the indiscrepancies in the plat?
That is correct.
So there'd be no cost to the city whatsoever?
That is correct. Okay. Now, there is, the reason it needs to go before the Planning Commission is so it can be thoroughly discussed, and the areas noted where this was a mistake, this shouldn't have been done, this would have been approved anyway, this would not have been approved, so that this is, I can assure that this should not be, and I don't think was, a normal course of operation.
No.
It's something that happens. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess, we get our employees from the human race, and sometimes they make mistakes.
One of the questions I've been asked many times is who was going to be responsible for it if the construction company was not held responsible for it, and you answered the question by the city is not, and at this time, nor are the Toddy Construction.
The city cannot be held responsible for it because of several things. Number one, the city doesn't own the property. Number two, the city, for example, the road, the city never accepted the road. There is an agreement in place to maintain the road. The city cannot be forced to maintain that road. If they ever decided they wanted to dedicate it to the city, then you could say, okay, when you bring it up to city standards, we'll accept it. Until you do, if it's full of potholes or whatever, you've got an agreement to maintain it, you go maintain your own road.
Thank you.
Certainly.
Other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I'll let the record know I will not vote. Roll call vote. Commissioner Sutton?
Nay.
Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Commissioner Carroll?
Aye.
Commissioner Bussell?
I would like, I vote nay, but I would also like to make a motion behind that, since we're still on the subject. Does not the normal processing of a certificate of occupancy, the board doesn't get involved? Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct.
Okay. Therefore, my motion is very simple, that now that the investigation has been completed and this board no longer has standing to be involved in this process, that the property just revert back to the normal processing where the building inspector and the codes director would make the decision, and we would remove ourselves since we no longer have standing.
Is that an amendment?
Well, since the other motion got voted down, that would be a new motion.
Okay.
That's proper this time since voting hasn't closed, am I correct?
Pardon me?
That's a proper rule of order since the voting process hasn't concluded. Is that correct?
Well, that's true. He can make that motion. The motion's not out of order. If the other one's been voted down, then he can make another motion.
Okay, can you fill us in on what you just said and where that would fall? You know, basically now the investigation's done, why would we hold up the process? And, you know,
Well,
early.
You, in essence, you really, at that point in time, what Commissioner Basell is saying, that the normal procedure would be to get the use not permit from the Codes Department. What he's saying is, in his motion, is just refer it back to the Codes Department for their action.
Okay,
the board
not
is
the
no
planning.
longer holding it up. You're just sending it back to say, Codes Department, do whatever it is you normally do.
Mr. Hubner, is the certificate of occupancy ready to be picked up because it's already been inspected?
Yes, ma'am. It is.
So the Codes Department's already done what they're supposed to do.
That's my understanding, but the only thing that this board will be doing is saying, we're referring it back, just like the court does. They send back a mandate to the court, to the lower court, to do what we said. And all you're doing with his motion is saying, we're sending this back to the Codes Department to do what you normally do.
Yes. City
Thank
Manager.
you. Y'all had required a contract, and I do have a contract in my person right now.
So share with us how that falls when the Board of Commissioners made a ruling in their motion in January that it would have to go back before the board for the release of the CO.
Well, what you're doing by sending it back to the Codes Department is de facto releasing it to them to do what they need to do. If they needed to go inspect something else, they could go inspect something else.
Is there anything else that needs to be done, Mr. Hubner?
No, there's not.
So if that motion passes, then they can release the CO.
Other discussion?
Have we we've got a motion for an amendment?
And we have now a new motion. You want to restate your motion?
Certainly. That we release jurisdiction and return the request for certificate of occupancy to the Codes Department, who will do what they normally do.
Second.
Okay, so just to discuss what you just said. So everything's done. It's ready to be released. Y'all were just waiting for us to give approval. It's
waiting for you to release your hold,
Your-
and that's what his motion is doing.
Okay. But the first motion could have done that too, right?
Absolutely, because after the first motion you've been releasing, and they'd still do what they do, so it's just
So it's just
rewording.
rewording it.
Right.
Okay, so there's nothing to hold it up, so when we vote on this amended motion, we can basically count on what is going to be released, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It is in essence saying, let the people who release motions release the CO, release it, because this board don't normally, it doesn't
Correct.
release COs. It put a hold on that one, and you're releasing that for them to do what they need to do.
Once the investigation was terminated, we no longer have involvement.
And you'd have no legal right to hold it.
Other discussion? Again, I'd like the record to show that I will not participate in the vote due to personal interest. Any other discussion?
Can I clarify the vote, please? The motion.
The motion is simply for us to release jurisdiction, the hold that we had on the certificate of occupancy, and return it to the Codes Department for their determination.
And that's the proper vote. That's all I have. My vote would be aye.
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 Thank you. Item number 8C. I have D there, it's C. Discuss and take action on vacant board seats. We have a bunch. The first one I'd like to present to the board is the application by Mr. Scott McCoy on the Finance Committee. What are the wishes of the board for filling that seat?
I move to approve. Is Scott the only one?
Only application at this time, yes, ma'am.
Under review, has he filled all the requirements for it? No.
Well, we need a second, so I'll second so that we can.
Okay, discussion.
We can have discussion. I don't have anything, and this is not about Mr. McCoy as an individual. This is just a concern about process. So, in looking at his experience, I'm not sure that he equates to what we originally advertised for. So my concern is that if we're going to select Mr. McCoy, that we should go back and at least for the next meeting, we should change what we're asking for in terms of experience, so that if somebody else that didn't quite have the finance experience or that sort of thing could apply. Because Mr. McCoy is I'm sure would do a good job and work hard at it. However, his basic background is IT and being an IT manager with some peripheral knowledge of the budget due to that job, not his basic finance being what he did. So we were pretty strict in the way we wrote that. And so, again, it's not anything against Mr. McCoy as an individual or his qualifications. If no one else applies, I'd be fine to have Mr. McCoy on the committee.
With that,
It's just a little different.
if no one else applies, let's ask, how long has this been advertised? Let me just ask first.
Since the committee had been started.
Okay, so it's been an open
Yes, ma'am.
application accepted, and we've gotten no applicants.
No, ma'am. Ms. Brooks was the last applicant.
What were the specific requirements for it, Commissioner Purcell?
Well, I'll have to pull it up.
Experience in finance banking area is what's on the,
You've got the sheet, Mayor.
we have an application for the Finance Review Committee. We have a, did you make a motion?
No.
No.
Well, somebody did to accept him. I don't.
I originally made.
Motion for acceptance, and we're in discussion, so any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Mayor, I was trying to make an amendment before we got started. I'm sorry. I just didn't want to.
Oh.
You were looking the other way. And
We
I
have-
didn't want to throw something at you. So, but since you called the vote.
We called the vote, so all those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
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 I'd like to make another motion that we repost it with less strict, indicating that you could have peripheral knowledge gained in budget and finance through other main occupation, so that anybody that read it that might not have applied because they didn't think they met the qualifications or didn't have the opportunity. And then we just post it for 2 weeks, and then at the next meeting, we can then address anybody else that would apply. And if nobody else applies, then I'll change my vote, vote yes.
I'll second that.
Okay, discussion on the reposting for 2 weeks longer? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, this evening I'd also like to present for the Board of Zoning Appeals. Before I do this, let me ask, Ms. Johnson or Mr. Hall, has either of you received any response from Mr. Dowdy? Yes or no?
I haven't.
I haven't directly, but I believe the vice mayor has.
Through me, he has, but he has not formally replied to the email, but he told me verbally yes.
And what about Michael Mitchell?
Are we on the Board of Zoning
I'm just asking the two that have not responded yet before we move forward. No response, okay. All right. We have 2 seats available for the Board of Zoning Appeals. And I'd like to present to the board for consideration for Mitch Dowdy and Ricky Campbell.
Move for approval.
Second.
First and second, discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Next, I'd like to present for consideration Mr. Ken Weaver for the seat for the Industrial Development Board.
Approve. Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The,
May I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
Did he put an application for that?
he discussed, could go either way. Is that a comment from Ms. Johnson?
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
And he has an application on file, right? So
For that
it's
position?
qualified.
He's currently in that position.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
He's very sick. for
You
those
probably
who
know,
don't
that's the
know.
reason
Yes.
that I even brought to that.
Well, I was just even saying that once it's on file, you don't have to necessarily
No, it was
resubmit.
the other reason, I was asking that.
Okay.
At this point, he's not declined the request, so we'll continue on as.
I think you do a great job.
The next item is there is an available seat that has opened. I request that the staff put out the advertisement for applications to be received for a citizen member for the Park Commission. Next item for presentation is for the Planning Commission, Mr. Brandon Butler and Mr. Todd Behan.
They both here tonight?
No one's here.
Yeah.
Last.
Yeah, they're both already on there, and
They would just want to continue, so I move to approve.
Yeah, these are suggestions because their seats have expired and we are needing to reassign them or know that we have vacancies.
Second the
Move to
motion.
approve.
Okay, we have first and second. Any discussion?
should we not include Mr. Mitchell and then,
We're not including him. We're speaking of Brandon and Todd at this
Okay.
point.
Well, only concern I have should there not be some kind of advertisement? I know back when I was on the Planning Commission, when a seat was coming vacant, it was advertised anyway,
I thought we did advertise
regardless of whether they wanted to stay or not. Now, it was most common practice if somebody had done a good job, they stayed in the position, but I thought it was advertised. I remember my seat was advertised when I was out of town for the seat, and I didn't know about it, and I could have been out of my seat. So I know that it was common practice before unless something's changed.
If I may, Mayor.
Yeah, no, I'm not Mayor.
Well, that's okay. I believe she's correct, and I just kind of glanced at city manager, and it was not posted, so.
I mean, I'm all for these candidates staying. I just don't know if that's our procedure, then shouldn't we stick with it?
That has been your procedure to announce them, advertise them, advertise them.
We'll get it reposted.
We'll back up. For the advertisement of the 2 vacant seats, we need to retract the vote for the Board of Zoning and the Industrial Development Board.
If they were not advertised, yes, you would need a motion to do that, to withdraw
I
them.
can't help but remember some of those things being brought up to us about when their expiration date's gonna be.
it's all June 30th from what this document shows.
And that document, that was not posted. Okay, maybe that's where I looked at it at. I knew
And-
something had been put out there about
Yeah.
expiration dates. so.
And it could have been just the expiration, and I just know that my own seat, I could have lost because I didn't know it was up. So,
So we need to retract. I need a motion for
You'll
retracting.
need a motion to withdraw your previous action on the 2 seats, or on any seat that wasn't advertised, and re-advertise it.
Yes, do I have a motion from the board?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Now, in discussion, we'll go back to the comment. We do have these people that were notified, but we did not advertise as open to the public, which is what we're discussing now will
Yes,
be
ma'am.
done, and then it'll be brought back at the first June meeting,
Whenever you want it brought back.
okay?
Yeah, I mean, and it's no, I mean, I love the people serving. It has no personal procedure.
You're right.
You're correct. You need to follow your proper procedure.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. So with this, we have advertisement of 2 Board of Zoning Appeals. We have a Industrial Development Board seat, the Park Commission seat. We have 3 Planning Commission seats to be posted and advertised. The Finance Committee to be advertised. And we have one on the Beer Board to be advertised. Is there anything else?
I just want to make sure that we have clarity in the requirements for all those positions, whatever they may be.
Like for all of them then to be present at that June 1st meeting, we request them to be present as.
What's your new plan?
Yes, ma'am. Also, for clarification, should these also fill out a new application, or we go with the existing application?
I don't think in the past we required
No,
them to do
your
an application.
as long as unless they withdraw their application,
Right.
could be continued.
Or if they stepped down and then came back a couple years later, if there was any break.
But if it's just filed a month ago, 3 months ago, or whatever, and it just hadn't been acted on, they don't need to file another one.
Okay. All clear? Moving on. New business. Discuss or take action on Bill 2014-8.
It's an ordinance to amend the City of Fairview, Tennessee budget for fiscal year 2013-14 budget.
Okay, thank you. This, we tried to change up the format just a little to make these amendments more understandable. We've got some areas that in the general government department that need to be funded, and I've got these line items that can be that can do that. This HRA payment, as we discussed earlier, is in needing of some funds, so I would like to take the funds out of the departments that have released them, said that they can do without, and move them over to offset the over budget item of the HRA payment.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 9B, discuss and or take action on Bill 2014-09.
This is to move money to pay
Excuse me just a minute. We have to read the caption, but that's
Oh, I'm
usually
sorry.
his parts I'll run on. An
Well-
ordinance,
Okay, can we get this where it can at least be shown as we go through it, like on the screen?
I don't have, I'm using my cheat sheet.
Okay.
I've got, you think I'm that talented?
I'll read the caption while you get that ready. You're good?
Okay.
An ordinance for an amendment to the City of Fairview, Tennessee budget of fiscal year, yeah. Go ahead. I had to read the bold part. I wanted to make sure that was all of it.
I think it might be malfunctioning. Okay, this is just to move money from the, there it is, from the Capital Projects Fund over to pay for the welcome sign lighting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
And remind me, this is the lighting that is coming or is there, or?
The welcome signs only, am I correct?
Correct.
They're already there?
The lights are not there yet. No.
Okay.
Other discussion? So some monies we're moving after it's already been spent and some monies we're moving before it's been spent?
Well, we need to move it to spend it. It needs to come from the capital projects fund. That's what y'all voted to spend it out of, and I need to have an ordinance saying that I moved money from the capital projects fund over to the checking account.
But in these ordinance, we have a sum from already been spent to be reimbursed.
Yes.
And some of them that has not been spent, that's been allocated.
Yes.
So you have the availability to spend it.
Yes.
Okay. Other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Ordinance, sorry. We have discuss and or take action on 2014-10, ordinance 831. Wait, I'm at 832.
832.
832.
An ordinance for an amendment to the City of Fairview, Tennessee budget for fiscal year 2013-14 budget.
Move to approve. Discussion.
Wait a second. Discussion?
And so this is just the salaries that weren't used for some of the changes of employees that you're now going to move to help fund the finance
Correct.
assistant, which, just to remind the people, that was a recommendation that the Board of Commissioners passed because of the audit. So that new finance assistant position was not in our original budget, and so there needs to be amendment. And correct, Mr. Daugherty, when you came, there was several things that was approved before that you're now amending, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make that clear for everybody.
Okay. Do we have, did we stop the big screen? Other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Discuss and or take action, Bill 2014-11, Ordinance 833.
An ordinance for the amendment of the City of Fairview, Tennessee budget for fiscal year 2013-14 budget. Move for approval.
Second.
Discussion?
The only question I had about this one is, I noticed that you're moving the overtime in highways and streets, and I just wanted to ask you the question, what happens if we have a storm from now to June?
All the street department salaries are currently in street aid. There's currently no salaries coming out of that department.
So there's still money to pay if we had some kind of storm and they were going to have to do all-nighters, do overtime.
I believe state street aid is funded properly. They have overtime allotment in that area. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, because when I looked at it, I was like, well, it's just early. And I was afraid we were jumping the gun to do the budget amendment because we don't know with tornadoes and different stuff. I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't a concern. Thank you.
Other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 9E, discuss and or take action on Bill 2014-12, an ordinance number 834.
Ordinance for an amendment to the City of Fairview, Tennessee budget for fiscal year 2013-14 budget. Move for approval.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 9F, discuss and or take action on Bill 2014-13, ordinance number 835.
Ordinance for an amendment to the City of Fairview, Tennessee budget for fiscal year 2013-14 budget. Move for approval.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item G, discuss and or take action on Bill 2014-14, ordinance number 836.
It's an ordinance for an amendment to the City of Fairview, Tennessee budget for fiscal year 2013-14 budget. Move for approval.
Second.
Discussion?
I just had a concern. It appears to me that this History Village is coming out of the Bowie Park Fund. Am I reading that correct?
No.
No, it's Capital Project Fund and Bowie, it says Capital Project and Bowie Park Fund.
Capital Project Fund is for the park that covers History Village.
Okay.
Bowie Park Fund is for the park for Bowie Lake Road.
Okay.
The discussion?
Together.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Item H, discuss and or take action on Bill 2014-15, ordinance number 837.
An ordinance for an amendment to the City of Fairview, Tennessee budget for fiscal year 2013-14 budget. Move for approval.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item I, discuss and or take action on Bill 2014-16, ordinance 838.
An ordinance for an amendment to the City of Fairview, Tennessee budget for fiscal year 2013-14 budget. Move for approval.
Second.
Discussion? I'd like to make a comment in discussion of our capital improvement fund. Originally, the discussion, well, I say originally, once upon a time, the discussion of capital improvements was looking into our future of the opportunity of infrastructure that we desperately are going to be faced with. And that was something that we had put a little bit aside, and I believe the audio-visual equipment did spend that monies. A little bit more was put aside, and that's been spent throughout the year on different other projects of necessity that we voted on. And the Capital Project Fund, I believe, is a very vital piece of our future, and I would like to see, as we've discussed multiple times, that we continue focusing on replenishing our reserves and also putting away for a rainy day. The capital improvement funds will pay for our future infrastructure that'll be needed, and it'll also be such that we'll be able to use matching grants and utilize monies that we do not have now to participate in maybe future county projects. So I'd like the board to very seriously look at that capital improvement fund and be cautious and conscious that we're looking out for the future and where a bridge may be out or we may want to participate, and that's where that money would be for us to look forward. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item J, discuss and or take action on Bill 2014-17, ordinance 839.
An ordinance for an amendment to the City of Fairview, Tennessee budget for fiscal year 2013-14 budget. Move for approval.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Next on the agenda is K, discuss and or take action on car allowance for city manager. Commissioner Bissell.
Thank you, Mayor. With the arrival of our new codes director, the vehicle that the city manager was using has now rotated back to him, and we do not have, the city manager does not currently have a vehicle. Given that the money is tight to the end of the year in general funding, then my proposal is that we give the city manager a car allowance, and he continue to use his pickup truck for the months of May and June for this year, and we can either address it or not address it in the budget process for the coming year. Well, that's my motion, so it needs a second before I.
Second.
Discussion?
I did some research on just how much that should be. Any internet reference is subject to finding another internet reference, but the one that I pulled up was World at Work, and they apparently do an annual study based upon what these allowances should be. The average monthly car allowance for the chief executive officers is $842. For mid-level officers or executives, it's $675, and $500 for lower level workers. And it ranges from a low of $500 to some places are granting their executive officers $2,000 a month. So I would like to see us approve for the city manager's $600 a month for the month of May and June to compensate him for use of his personal vehicle and in the performance of his duties. And then we can address any vehicle afterwards that's needed.
That's your motion?
Yes, sir.
Second.
Discussion?
Does that include a gas allowance in the 600?
The 600 would be a sum total, would be total.
Okay, yeah.
Just flat $600.
That's all I got. Thank you.
Well, could you not give him a gas allowance without, because we go and use gas cards anyway, so you could give it a cap amount?
The city manager is allowed to fuel up at our tank, so I don't think there's any question there.
Right, so there's no...
There's $600 a month and he uses city gas. I think is that not?
We can deduct the gas out of the 600 if you'd like. It's fine with me.
I don't think that's how it was done in the past. I think it was 600 for use of your vehicle and we provided you the gas.
Well, I don't mind you using our gas, but, and I know this is a predicament, but considering the financial situation we're in, I just can't see giving you a $600 car allowance, and that's no offense, but I don't know that we could pay him mileage for his car, and he can track his mileage, and we can give him the state average. We could let him have gas. But right now, I don't think $600 a month is going to be a wise, and how long? To the new budget and we buy him a new car? Is that what you're?
That's his motion for 2 months. And then it's our responsibility to have him transportation. Or we can add it to the next agenda and buy him a car.
Well, I'm not for buying him a car. I'm for having that discussion as part of the budget. This is strictly an interim. What do we do for the next 2 months? And do you have an amount in mind?
I know it's a predicament because I'm sure in the contract it says we provide a car. But the problem is, I think we should have probably thought about that before we wrote the contract. And I think that a $600 car allowance, when we're having trouble, with our budget and not knowing where it's going to stand, I don't know.
I have a simple fix then. It's going to take some moving around of some vehicles. We can take the vehicle back away from Mr. Umber, give it to Mr. Hall. We can take John Bledsoe's vehicle away from him and give it to Mr. Umber. And then we can take Greg's truck that he was driving when he worked in that department and give it to John. And we've solved.
Don't work in that department no more?
From what I understand,
He works in the public works.
So if that seems like that would solve the problem. So I'll make that a motion.
I basically volunteered my truck to do this because of the financial situation we're under, and I didn't request an allowance. This was, you know, whatever y'all want to do about it is fine with me. But you know, I can commute with the truck as if I was just a normal employee, and then Mr. Humber and I can share that vehicle if we got duties during the day, if we want to go that route. So, you know, y'all can discuss it and do whichever way you want to.
How far from City Hall do you live?
3 miles, 4 miles at the most. And, you know, the only thing that has been, you know, told to me is that I'm on 24-hour call, you know. And,
Well, I understand that.
the city attorney and I discussed that earlier today. And that would be the only thing that if I had you know, an accident in my own truck or something, that he was concerned about whether TML would cover that situation. But here again, I can commute with my own truck until things get better, so to speak. Yeah, but
if I can just ask another question, is the position that Greg Dwyer's in now, does it require a vehicle?
No, sir.
Then that would be the solution to the problem at this time.
I agree. I think that's our easiest plan of action now. If we're not going to, I mean, it all goes back to Mr. Hall cleaning the bathrooms. I don't know another city manager that would have given up his vehicle for a new employee. So I stand with my motion. I'm waiting for a second.
Discussion?
Didn't you have a motion on the floor?
He's amended.
Okay.
Well.
Are you amending my motion?
We can do it that way, or we can remove the first. Either way, fine with me, sir.
Discussion?
If it's can be handled with Mr. Hall shuffling cars, then I don't see any reason for us to vote on it.
Seems like we would be getting into employee issues, wouldn't it? Mr. Cantrell, does the board have the opportunity to tell Mr. Hall what to do with the employees?
Not about how shuffling cars. I mean, if they're available, that would be his decision.
So what is your suggestion with the motion on the floor?
Well, I would just withdraw both motions and let him handle it internally. Because that would get you out of the position of suggesting how he handled the problem.
Well, would it be proper to give a suggested directive to the city manager that if that car is no longer needed in that position, that it not be used for that?
That as a suggestion, that's fine. You don't need that as a motion.
Well, and all this is a temporary fix. I mean, eventually, you know, it may not last long, but it does get us through the process, especially if Greg's not in that position right now. I think that would probably be a solution.
But it would revert back to a pool vehicle, which could be maintained up the line to where we can use it exactly like the Vice Mayor stated. It should be used in that direction.
Greg has actually told me that right now he's trying to find a vehicle, and that's the reason that I've given in and let him take it home, because he doesn't have a way home to and from work. And I value his ability in the department that he's in to keep him employed, and I do not want to jeopardize that at all. And, you know, here again, I can commute in mine until Greg can get a vehicle, and I will pressure that as much as I can, as soon as I can. But right now, I'll be glad to commute with my vehicle to and from here, and if I need to go anywhere other than go to lunch or something, I'll use Frank's vehicle.
Once again, that's your decision as a
Yes.
city manager. It's not our decision to make. We do have pool cars sitting out there, am I correct?
Well, I've tried that, but everything I said, it's a drug fund car, and then I'm not allowed to use that, so, that's.
Where'd he go?
That's ones that's gonna be auctioned off in the motor pool, so.
My concern is, and it's very magnanimous of the city manager to do it this way, we are in breach of contract. Our contract that we agreed to provide. So I think we have to take action to provide him a vehicle. Now, if our action is to designate one of the vehicles, the 3 vehicles we've talked about, to be his vehicle, I think we have fulfilled the contract. But I believe we are in breach of contract if we just punt to him.
I don't know that we can because he gave up his vehicle. That's the big difference. We offered a vehicle. He's chosen to give up his vehicle. So I think that's where the difference is, because he had a vehicle.
We have a city attorney. What do you think, Claire?
Well, in the situation of, if he complained of a breach of contract, I would agree. But you wouldn't have a breach of contract when he said it was my idea to do this. So, but I would, whatever you do, whatever motion you vote on, if it comes down to where Mr. Hall is going to use his personal vehicle, not coming and going to work, that's not what I'm addressing. But if something happened during the work time that he needed, that it was necessary that he take his personal vehicle on city business, I would ask the board to pass a resolution, or at least approve him doing that on an as-needed basis, so that in the event, and I hope it doesn't happen, but that he's involved in an automobile wreck, then he would be driving his personal vehicle on city business with the approval of this board, so that he don't end up with personal liability on his insurance that should be covered by the city's insurance.
I withdraw my motion.
Or are we still in discussion?
We're in discussion
because
on
there's
the amended.
Okay. I really don't have a problem with if it's outside the city limits, if he's going to Franklin or Nashville, giving him the, government rate for mileage, and he can log it and turn it in, and we could cap it. I mean, that's reasonable. But just to give a $600 car allowance on a car that he gave up, and I'm not, thank you, I'm not saying that you should be punished. And I'm just saying mileage is reasonable. If he did have to use, if we do the ordinance like the attorney suggested, if you have to go to Franklin and it's some city business.
I withdrew my motion.
Well, I'm still talking on his amendment.
I withdraw my motion.
Let me say one other thing in clarification. Commissioner Bissell is right in that technically it's a breach of his contract, but he's a party to it and had agreed to it, so he would have his action. He could not bring the action. But if we're going to allow him to use his vehicle, I would still ask the board, not as an ordinance, but to formally approve, if it's necessary for him to drive his vehicle on city business, that he has that approval, so that it would get him out of an insurance situation.
Do we have a motion on the agenda item K, discuss and or take action on car allowance for city manager?
I have a legal question, if I could, Mayor. We have been told that a city employee is driving a vehicle home that has nothing to do with his position because he has not transportation at the present time. Is the city covered should he wreck that vehicle?
I would have to defer that question to TML and see what's in their coverage. Normally, if the city would, if the city gave him permission to take it home, I think he would be. But I would want to see what TML has to say about their coverage, and Mr. Hall may have already checked.
I was told that as long as I was given permission at this point in time that we would be covered. But here again, I can address that with the employee tomorrow. Another employee is offered to pick him up and carry him home. So that may be the option that I may have to take tomorrow.
Generally, if I'm doing something with permission and in the scope of, and I stay within the scope of of what the permission was granted. Now, if I'm given permission to drive it home and I'm found in Franklin going to the movie theater, then I've detoured and frolicked and all bets are off.
Okay.
Would it be proper under this agenda item to address the liability issue, or do we need to put that on a future meeting?
It reads car allowance.
No, sir, I think it'd have to be on a future meeting. But at least if he's doing it now, at least if you're aware of it and you're aware that he's doing it, he could probably be successful, but I would want it on the next agenda, so it could be properly discussed.
If I can discuss an amendment, a possible amendment before we do it, what if we amended that to say it be fully reimbursable for any expenses whatsoever incurred over this next 2-month period that we're talking about? If it's 2 months, it's going to be X percentage of his insurance, X percentage of everything that is incurred with that vehicle. Would that be a fair, rather than a $600, if it's $200, it's $200, it's $400, it's $400?
It may be more than that. It may be more than 600.
Well,
And I don't think, I mean, it would be different if we were asking him to get insurance on his personal vehicle, but he already has, it's his personal vehicle, he already has insurance. So, I mean, I understand your thought process, but he's got insurance, correct? Full coverage, liability?
I think Mr. Hall will handle it in the morning, and the vehicles will be switched around as they were mentioned here tonight. I'm very confident in that.
Yeah, I think where we talked ourselves to was just letting Mr. Hall handle it, and then if he has to use his truck in the city's business, then we need to pass a resolution or something that says that's okay with us. He can make that call.
If there be no action on the item, we'll move on. Item 9L, discuss and or take action on a park truck. Commissioner Johnson.
Mr. Paisley? You tell us the purpose of this truck and what it would be used for.
The purpose for the truck is that we actually need another pickup truck in the park system so that we're able to provide the services that we're asked to do. Basically, a four-wheel drive crew cab so that we have extra room to take foresters and so on out on the trail system. Being able to haul the trailers and also to accomplish 2 tasks at one time. We currently have a Jeep in the system and a service truck, and we're just asking that we be allowed to get a four-wheel drive pickup truck to better service our parks.
This is on the state bid?
Yes, it is.
And it would be for protection, beautification, and maintenance of the park, correct?
Yes.
We have a 2015 Chevrolet Silverado 4-door, 4-wheel drive crew cab.
Yes, ma'am.
At the cost of $32,000 with a $3,000 outfit of lighting, radio, safety equipment, and accessories, and a total cost request of $35,000.
Yes.
Are we free for discussion?
No, we're waiting on a motion.
Move for approval.
Second for discussion.
Discussion?
What have you been doing up until this point?
We've been borrowing trucks from the street department to do any kind of work that we need to be doing. And we're having to do that if they're free to use their trucks.
Can you give me some examples of when a case would be that you have to call street department and get their truck?
Yes, when they're out picking up trash, Highway 100, they're taking both pickup trucks out, and we're needing to be able to pull our trailer. We have one maintenance staff working in the park, which carries the tools. He's doing one job. We need another truck to be able to continue doing our other duties, mowing here, mowing the other two lakes, or the Evergreen Lake and the History Village.
Okay, and those two trucks that are currently the street departments or public works, they are four-wheel drives, two-wheel drives?
Yes, both of them are four-wheel drives.
Okay, so why couldn't, and you have a truck now, right?
Well, we have one service truck and a four-wheel drive Jeep.
Okay. Why couldn't you just take the truck from the park department, give it to the streets, because they're not going to be needing four-wheel drive to pick up trash? They have one four-wheel drive. Then you have a truck that you can use in the parks department.
Well, they're not going to be able to pick up trash with the Jeep.
Oh, so you don't have a truck at all?
We have a service truck.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is when he's out there doing maintenance work in the park, the service truck, the other worker will be using that truck to do work on our other parks.
Okay. You're over both departments, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So you can move around the trucks, right?
Yes.
Would that work? What I suggested? I mean, because to pick up trash, you don't need a four-wheel drive. You already have, I mean, they're all in our possession. You have 3 trucks.
Right.
We need 4 trucks?
Well, yes, because they're going to be, and I'll put it a different way, okay? If we have a right-of-way crew out there mowing, they have to have a truck behind them, which carries a weed eater and gas so that they're weeding behind the boom tractor out there. The other one will be doing whatever other work that we need done in the city.
But we only mow how many months?
It's usually about 3 or 4 times a year as far as boom tractor or road right-of-ways. But it takes about 3 to 4 weeks at a crack to get the entire city done.
Well, and I appreciate you answering these questions. I'm just trying to understand. You realize that I need to understand, because this was something you presented to us for our budget. And Commissioner Johnson, were you wanting to vote on this tonight?
Yes.
So if it was something that was discussed in our budget, why are we now, because we haven't even finished the budget process, to discuss what needs and wants? We just barely started.
These 3 items are immediate needs.
Okay. So right now we're talking about the truck, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so the truck is an immediate need. What happened from 2 weeks ago to today that made it an immediate need?
Well, like I said, with the right-of-way mowing starting, the guys will be taking one pickup truck completely out of our grasps. The other truck will still have to be doing mowing of the 4 lanes and our other properties around the city. So they'll be pulling the other truck. And we cannot be trying to pull with the Jeep while we have one maintenance worker doing one job and the other worker trying to pull a lawnmower trailer and weed eater and gas around in his Jeep.
And so you're suggesting that it comes out of the Bowie Park Fund?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that park fund supposed to be for park improvements? Can we answer that question again?
Well, it's pretty broad as to, a lot of it is this board's decision, but it's for park improvements, and of course, if you're gonna go out there and clean off the trails and keep the stuff off of the, when the wind blows it down or whatever, that certainly would be a park improvement. But yes, it'd have to be basically tied to park improvements.
What was the statement you made earlier about beautification?
That's what the park staff told me. This, when they presented this a couple of weeks ago to us, this was on the needs list. They had a wants list that followed that. These were the three mainly needed things that they presented to us then and have been re-presented to me since then.
Other discussion?
One question that I have, the main reasons is by cutting the state right away. They're using that truck for that, so we can't use it for that, for the park purposes.
Well, they carry a weed eater in the back. While the boom tractor is going down the road, the secondary person behind that tractor will get out and weed eat around signs and...
Okay, just a real quick clarification, City Manager. How does the contract look with the state of Tennessee for us to continue to cut that?
We're going to continue with the 4-lane and the cloverleaf. I think they're going to remove some of the other cutting.
Yes, the current contract for the litter pickup and mowing of the 4 lanes and along the sidewalks will be, though the state is going to a new procedure where they're trying to get one group that comes in and takes over everything, but we'll still get paid to do the 4 lanes and the litter pickup at the 4 lanes.
I just want to make sure we weren't going to lose the entire contract part of it.
No.
Because then we wouldn't need that other truck.
No, and the right-of-ways I'm talking about are on our side roads here.
Tom, can you real quick remind me how much we get paid to do the cutting? Because I'm not being able to find it on spot, and I know it was in one of these papers you presented.
It's around 30-something thousand, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think right now it's about $2,400.
And it's how many months?
I think we're paying that. I think that.
That's a monthly contract.
Year round. I believe I've got put in the budget $18,000 for this upcoming year. They got to renegotiate. They're going to take the trash out of that, so it'll be just a moment. I'm not sure what they'll pay.
So we would get $18,000 for next year is potentially, once all that's done, for the whole year. Is that just, I'm just repeating the question, making sure that's what I'm getting from you. Thank you.
Yes. That's as much as I know.
Okay, well, that's all I wanted. I just wanted you to restate that for clarification. So the truck costs how much?
$32,000 with a $3,000 outfit of lighting, radio, safety equipment, accessories. Total cost, a request is $35,000. And in my comments, undoubtedly, we do want you to be equipped to do the job that we're to do for the city of Fairview. That's not the question. But I guess at this point, I'd ask, would there be any other vehicle you would like to present to accomplish that other than a 2015 $35,000 vehicle?
No, currently that's the other one's on a state contract right now. If we go new, every time we go and purchase say a used vehicle, I'm in the belief that we need to be purchasing new vehicles instead of used vehicles. I mean, we've got I want to say we've gone to state surplus and bought state surplus trucks, and we've always run into problems with used equipment. The other 2 vehicles that are on state contract, one being a Ford and one being a Dodge, are higher than this. I don't have that in the packet here.
Well, this is my problem, and I'm all for safety, I understand your concern, but here we have a dilemma. We have a city manager, we can't even provide a car that his contract states. Then we're going to take a park and buy a truck for the park when they could share, and they have been, even though it's not convenient, but they could. So I'm just a little worried about taking the money, especially for something that, even though I know we'll service the park for many years, but I don't know that it is a investment. I just like the money to be spent on a long-term investment. And a truck's life is how many years? Car life, 4 years. Y'all say we have to rotate them and get them out every 4 years. I think a truck for $35,000 on an investment of 4 years is not a good investment to spend the Bowie Park money.
Other discussion?
If I could, Mayor. I think the life of the truck, and correct me, Keith, they were going with diesel, correct?
No, I believe this is a gas one. The diesel is much
So they weren't going with diesel. I think you'd find that the life of the truck, because of the mileage and the way it is used, will last a lot longer than 4 years. That 4 years had to do with police cars that were running in excess of 200 miles a day and so forth and so on. So I see that as a pretty good linked investment, especially if you go by the trucks that we have now. We're running trucks that are 2004, 2005, and it's 2014. So 10 years is what I think the truck will buy. I would like to amend Vice Mayor's motion, however. The people that have expressed a concern to me, it goes back to what's fair play. And fair play is that if we use the money from the Bowie Park Fund, then the truck, which I believe will be used predominantly in Bowie Park, but it's also not practical that the other properties that Ms. Bowie gave us, while not legally part of that one deed, they are becoming our park system. The City Hall was here, the Evergreen Park, the History Village, they're all, so it's not practical to say you've got a truck and it can't leave the bounds of this one park. To me, the solution to that, and this is my amendment, is that the park staff will keep a log. And if they use that truck to say go to Evergreen and cut Evergreen, then they will log that down, and then at the end of the year we will do a analysis of that log, and if money needs to go back in the Bowie Park Fund, we'll put money back in the Bowie Park Fund. For example, if the truck costs $35,000 and we see that we use the truck 10% of the time in History Village and Evergreen, then I believe at the end of the year we need to put $3,500 back into the Bowie Park Fund. That to me is the equitable position in it, because quite frankly, folks, if we have an ice storm and they need that truck to get the roads clear, we have only 2 trucks capable of doing that right now, a third if we can get to it. But everything would get done, we would have 4 crews out there, not 3 or 2. In case of emergency, and we're not going to have a perfectly good truck parked there and say we can't drive it past the entrance to the park because of how we paid for it. So we need to be equitable in that. I can understand that concern. I can understand the need to be that way. To me, it's not, I don't want to create contentiousness by doing that, so they just keep a log. And then at the end of the year, we do an accounting of how the truck was used and make the appropriate adjustment. So that's my amendment.
Discussion?
How many four-wheel drive trucks or cars or vehicles does the city own? Can somebody tell me? Police cars? I think we just got 12 new four-wheel drive cars, right? And then how many can you come up with? Because it's four-wheel drive, it's the problem, correct, Keith?
Yes, we just want to make sure that we're able to get on the trail systems when we need to get on them to be able to clear and do the work.
Mr. Hall?
I don't know exactly how many four-wheel drives we have. I know we got 2 in the Public Works and possibly the Jeep in the Parks Department. And I think the police cars are all-wheel drive.
All of them, or just the new ones?
All the new ones.
Okay, just the new ones. Okay.
And I believe there is a difference between all-wheel and four-wheel drive, and the last ice storm wasn't the Jeep four-wheel drive, then we had to go pick up employees and bring them in just with that one. That's the only thing we had available. Did I hear that, or was it?
In previous storms, yes, police department came and took the Jeep to be able to do their job.
Okay.
Who, is this truck, does anybody drive the truck home?
Yes, my superintendent does.
Okay, so what truck does he drive home now?
Currently the Jeep.
Okay, so the truck wouldn't be taken home, correct?
We can work it any way the city manager would like to work that.
Okay. Okay, so basically right now, every vehicle that the city owns goes home with a city employee.
No.
Is that correct?
No.
No? What stays here?
I know John Bledsoe's truck stays here all the time when he's not in use.
Okay, so John Bledsoe drives his own car to work, and for codes or inspections, he uses the city car.
S10, yeah. Yeah.
Does anybody know why?
That was done because his broke down and he didn't have the money to fix it. And, you know, I don't want to get into his personal finances, but the boy's having a hard time.
That was Greg. She was talking about John.
Why John Bledsoe?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm talking about, does anybody know why John is the only city employee that leaves his truck here?
Well, he's not the only
I didn't
one,
say
but
he was
he's
the
not
only
a
one. You asked for
department
an
head.
example. I know that one stays there because the sheriff might come and ask him that.
So a department head is the requirement. So a supervisor or somebody else wouldn't necessarily take a car home.
That was John's personal choice to do so because
Okay, he didn't want
he has children he takes to school and that type of thing. So, but in the past he was offered to take it home.
Okay.
Yeah. And then as far as the other four-wheel drive, I think is the Dodge in the Public Works that the transmission is about ready to fall out.
What year is it?
2002.
2002?
With 190,000 miles on it from state surplus.
All used.
Yes.
And what, is that the current truck that the work truck you're using?
The one that we're just mentioning?
Okay, which one is that? Clarify.
That was the green Dodge that's in the Public Works. And
Okay, so that's one of the two Public Works?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And the truck that you're using in the park right now, what's the mileage on that?
I do not have that on me. The Jeep, I know, has like 86 to 89,000 miles. I'm not sure on the service truck.
Is that including your truck?
For
What truck do you drive?
one of the Escapes.
So is that part of what you were saying was the parked vehicles?
No.
So there's another vehicle.
Yes.
Is it four-wheel drive?
It's all-wheel drive.
So that vehicle's...
And there's the other vehicles that the park has. There's a van?
There's a van.
Okay.
You know, I would like to amend the motion that Keith comes back with a fully list inventory of all their cars, both in Public Works and in the parks, with mileage and any maintenance for further discussion on this matter.
Second. Okay, we have a discussion.
I just think it makes sense to really understand what we're voting on, to see all the vehicles with the mileage and what department has them and what they're used for. I think that would help me.
All those in favor of the amended motion? Commissioner Sutton?
If I may ask one more question. The question you asked, Kim's come back with everything the park has, am I right?
I know, and Public Works, since he's over both departments, and
This
they go
request-
back and forth.
But this request is not for Public Works, it's for the parks.
I know, but they share vehicles, he stated earlier.
They share the Public Works vehicle, not just their vehicles, because this would come out of the park fund, so it wouldn't, in my understanding, it shouldn't come out of the Public Works Department.
Well, I still would like a listing, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I would still like a list of all those vehicles under the departments that he's over to have a better understanding before we vote.
I don't really think that that's going to equate to anything when it comes to a vote. I think from your line of questioning, we see where you probably stand. I can't guarantee that, but I think just to try to delay something that could be handled tonight, and we just went over this with the city manager's vehicle, and we didn't need to tell the city manager how to tell people to drive cars, but yet you've sat right here and said, well, can't you get them to do this and can't you get them to do that? And that's exactly telling staff what to do with vehicles. So I don't understand where we're going here, and I've been for the last 10 minutes in my head thinking, I'm going to call the question because this is nonsense. They need this vehicle. We have the funds to provide this vehicle, and Commissioner Basile come up with an incredible plan to put money back in the fund if it's used outside of it, and I'm prepared to vote for that tonight.
Well, I think what nonsense is bringing something on the agenda when it was discussed in a budget discussion for the next budget year, and to try to push this through just because y'all say we need it, and then give me trouble when I ask a few questions. I just want to understand. Maybe you have a better insight than I do, but when it comes down to it, when I make a vote to spend $35,000 to help with a cutting project that is only going to bring in $18,000 this next year, and it'll take us 2 years to recoup the money, and we're struggling financially in some of the line items, and we're making cuts and moving money around, I think it's fair.
Oh, I'm not saying it's not fair. I'm just saying I don't think positions are going to change.
Well, I mean,
I'm not saying it's not fair.
well, you have the right to see. I mean, obviously, y'all can go ahead and vote it through if that's what the commissioners want to do, but it's just my voice, and I would like to see before I vote on something. If y'all decide that it's not going to change, then that's your prerogative, but it is what it is. I would like to see what we're using it for, what the other vehicles are used for, and I think it would better determine my decision.
Other discussion?
Clarification of the vote.
Well, we have a motion, and then we have an amended motion, and we have a second amendment. The second amendment is to have the department head, the city manager, report back to the Board of Commissioners on the inventory items of the usage and the truck inventory in those two departments. The amended motion was for the logbook to be tallied at the end of the year to see if it was utilized in percentages outside of the park, which is a requirement for the money to be utilized. The first motion was to approve the request of the truck. So we're at the second amended motion. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed?
No.
The second amendment is on the table for vote. That's for the log. Any other discussion?
Clarification, that would be refunding any money used outside the park back into the park fund, of which the truck is going to be purchased from. Thank you.
And it will not delete the first motion, it's just adding a log to it, or did you totally amend the motion to,
He added the log to it.
okay.
To require law.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The first motion on the floor for vote is for the approval of the truck. Any other discussion? Roll call vote. Commissioner Sutton?
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
I vote nay. Commissioner Carroll?
Nay.
Commissioner Bissell?
Yay.
Thank you very much, Keith. I appreciate your attending to the questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Keith.
Item M, discuss and or take action on park maintenance building.
Mr. Paisley, if you could on this as well, and then I have some information I would like to share. Go ahead and just tell the basic necessity and everything.
What the Parks Department is asking is that we be allowed to send a bid out for a maintenance building. It's a 40 by 70 maintenance building. The reason is currently we use the police impound lot, which the police department is losing some revenue by us being in it. We currently have 2 storage buildings that we're using, and they're filling up quick. We also have Public Works building that we're using some storage, and also Deer Ridge property. So we like to be able to have our own maintenance building in the park that we can use to prolong the life of our equipment and have some storage in the park for our equipment.
Do we already have any bids on that?
We did receive a bid type thing or quote on a metal building.
Says the estimated cost of the building is $30,000. There is an estimated cost of $30,000 in concrete to put the building on, and an estimated cost of $30,000 to have the plumbing, electrical, and interior finish done. The bid process will give us a better idea for more exact numbers of how much it will cost in total. So that's a $90,000 estimate.
Yes.
Is that something that you need today?
No, we're just asking, requesting go out to bid to find out the exact numbers.
Okay, so that's the request.
Yes, it is.
Did you request for this to come on the agenda after we talked about it during the budgets? And did you ask Vice Mayor Johnson to go ahead and put it on the agenda?
Yes.
So, oh, okay. Because you didn't think us talking about it in the budget process was
I'm just trying to get you an accurate number.
Just for clarification, you're strictly asking us to allow you to put it out for bid, but not accept a bid at this time?
Right, that would be your guys' call.
That is exactly right. I was approached to put this back on the agenda with that being the purpose, but also I attended the Friends of Bowie Park meeting Saturday morning, and to make this happen, we have to have the blessing of the land trust anyway to do this. We need to get an exact location of where we want this building to be, and it has been their request that we put wood siding on this metal building. Now that is going to take that $90,000 figure and I'm sure skyrocket it, but if we can make it blend in better to the surroundings based on where we choose it should go, and if the land trust approves it, then I think we need to do that. But we need to realize that that's going to expend a lot more money from the Bowie Park Fund in doing so. But I will make a motion to approve this, to go to bid, and to come back to us, and we'll
approve it.
Yes.
Let me change it a little bit, to discuss or to take action on at a later date after the bids. Okay.
We have a motion?
Second.
Discussion?
I also spoke to Friends of the Park representative about this today, and they did say you were at the meeting, and that it was discussed that they did, if this was going to be built, that they would like some kind of natural look because it is the park, and they would like something to be pleasing to the eye and fitting into the park. But this is not a need that they saw that was the number one necessity. They realized there probably is, you know, a usage for the building, but they would rather see park fund money be spent on the Joanne Classroom handicap accessible trail, and possibly there was one other thing. It'll come to me in a minute, sorry. But
Stage.
the stage, that's it. You got it. So you've talked too. And the stage is where they would rather see the money spent. Now, there is a representative from the Friends that could speak, but did I get that about correct, or is the consistence? I spoke to Eva Harris. No, but I was just wondering, you were at the meeting, right?
Oh, Saturday's meeting, yes, and say if there is a building to make it aesthetically fit in to the park, but ADA trails were high priority for us in the sense that more people would be able to visit the park. Covered pavilion, say a stage brings out a different connotation, but a covered pavilion, large covered pavilion, could be used for multi-use. Plus, you have Nature Fest.
Thank you. Other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Item N. Discuss and or take action on park chipper.
One more
I guess
time,
Keith, you're there. Go ahead.
And got more than one.
This is another request in a bid process on this one. This will be a smaller chipper than what the street department has, and then again, we run into the problem of having storms and not being able to get a chipper to get out on the trails. We are just requesting that we go out to bid and see what actual kind of numbers, and we do have one quote or number from a company that we currently use with the street department. And that would take care of cleaning up any storm debris and stuff from anything, cutting trees down so we're not piling up on the side of the trail.
Move for approval for it to go to bid.
Second.
Discussion? My discussion would be, again, as the percentage of the usage of this being borrowed out of the park fund. How much usage would this be in the park versus outside chipping the public's?
I think it would be, it would basically be used in the park, in Bowie Nature Park.
And we do a chipper service to the public. You have another chipper that will be doing that service?
Yes, this is a smaller chipper than what we currently use for the street department. Street department has a larger chipper.
And when we were in budget discussion, you commented about that chipper was on its last leg or is being worked on regularly.
Yes, most of the equipment is. I mean, most of the equipment that we currently use in the street department is anywhere from 10 to 13 years old.
So my question to that would be, getting a smaller chipper, you feel like?
That's just for the park use.
Wasn't part of that discussion that the maneuverability inside the park with that smaller chipper would be more accessible to the trails and the clearing of that? Okay.
I do agree with the mayor's point, and if an emergency situation did arise and it needed to be used outside the park, we could apply the same logic as we would be on the truck.
And that was one of my points. The other one is you spoke very specific about the big chipper being not enough to do work. And my concern here is you focusing on a littler chipper, are you not going to run into the same needing more machine than you're asking for now in the park for, how long do you think this machine would last?
Well, currently the one that the street department uses is
13 years old?
Is 13 years old,
Okay.
and they use it every week of the year or so.
Weekly?
Weekly.
Do you feel like this machine is getting too little of a machine of your park's needs?
No, this is an 8-inch where the street department has a 12-inch. It'll take bigger stuff. This one's going to take a lot of the branches, and I mean, we don't chip up anything out in the street that's, you know, huge. We'll haul that off if we have to. Most of the stuff that comes down in ice storm are the smaller caliper trees.
In the park?
Yes.
Other discussion?
Just for clarification, the motion is just to put it out for bid, not to purchase the
Yes.
equipment. Okay.
Very favorable with the chips being used for the trail maintenance in the case of washing and eroding. You'd be able to create your own repair material.
Yes, if we pile it up, we can use that to let it break down and reuse the dirt, covering up some of the routes, not doing the whole trail system because we've talked about that at the park board. How it won't let the soil underneath dry.
Other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Item O, discuss and/or take action on update on the ADA trail at Bowie Park. Just some background information. This has been discussed by the park board on multiple occasions. It is an outstanding action item on the staff's presentation each month, and it is also been presented by the parks program director, Ms. Jenny Herrera, of the dire need. And the Board of Commissioners voted to go to engineering, and we discussed this, and someone has an update?
Do you have it? He pointed at you. Okay, yes, sir.
Actually, I'm going to refer this to Frank Humber.
Okay.
He has some updates on the grant, and also he has an estimate of what the construction would be. And that might change a little bit of light. It's not as much as I thought it was going to be. So I'll let Frank handle this. Thank you, sir.
Good evening. As far as I wanted to report on a couple of grants, but this grant, which this is for Joanne's classroom access. Okay. I have an engineer's estimate, our engineer's estimate. He's saying that this is strictly a estimate for discussion purposes. If we go with a 5-foot wide conventional concrete sidewalk, then the cost would be around $25,000. 6 foot would be $30,000, and 8 foot would be $40,000. There would also be some additional engineering and inspection fees that would go with that. So that's generally generally what the cost would be, depending on what we chose. I did discuss this with Mr. Owen, and this we anticipate we would submit this for a grant, for a state grant, a park and rec, a local park and rec grant to the state. But that submission time has passed for this year, so it would be it would behoove us to get everything together and decide what we'd like to do so we can submit it the first of next year, first of next calendar year, and anticipating of getting a grant then. We'd be on the grant program.
With the grant, be total cost, or would it be a portion cost? How would that work?
It's, my information, Commissioners, that it's 50/50.
80/20.
I'm sorry, 80/20.
So if the project cost, say, was $40,000, our buy-in would be $80,000? Something like that?
Yes. That's right.
And our cost is that we again run the cycle for waiting another 6, 7
Yes,
months.
yes.
Of course, whatever time it takes them to approve it.
Yes, that's
So it'll
correct.
be next summer before it gets done.
That's, if we're going to do it with that, in that grant program, yes, sir. That's what it would be.
Well, my thinking on it is I think we should go ahead and pay for it out of the fund to do that one and apply the grant for Commissioner Sutton's trail around Lake Van.
I don't believe we have a choice. I believe we're sitting in a liable position because we have been told multiple times we're denying people, and that's a very scary place. And I believe we need to move forward immediately.
On both projects?
On the ADA trail to Joanne's classroom, so we have ADA accessible for where Jenny is turning people down. And that's a very big liability for the city that we're sitting.
Have we not been doing that for 5.5 years on the trail around Lake Van?
We've been
discussing ADA, yes, sir.
It's the same situation, am I correct? And we've turned down that one every time because of the budget. And what's the difference in the liability for the last 5.5 years and liability today?
I can understand your frustration, Commissioner Sutton, but the difference in the liability, as I see it, is that we are holding programs and inviting the public. The walking around Lake Van is important, but that's an individual choice. This is where we are advertising and inviting people, and we're allowing people to have weddings and teach classes and stuff like that. So we are inviting people to a facility that doesn't have disability access.
We invite the public to come to fishing rodeos, to come down and use the lake, to come down and use the playgrounds, to everything else that we do.
Yeah,
I don't want it to be specific for certain individuals with handicaps to use a specific area in the park and not as much as humanly possible. And I've been fighting this I'm going to keep on fighting till I'm through. The money was there, it was approved, it came back. It went from $160,000 to $600-something thousand magically overnight. We turned that down. And for roughly 10% of what that figure is going to cost, we're going to put in a short trail that's just going to be accessible and used by few. So that's just my opinion on it. To me, the urgency was there 5 years ago, but now it's even a more urgency. When we open those gates and we sponsor something in that park, I don't care what it is, we have the same liability that we have during Nature Fest, during anything else that we have toward people that have disabilities and the possibility of them getting hurt or not being able to access the rest of that park, or part of it anyway. So if we're going to do it, we need to do it all. Not just a few feet of it because it's convenient to teach a program. We try to teach kids how to fish down there, everything. And we have birthday parties for handicapped kids down there. I know because I've been there. I've done it. And I'm just passionate about if we're going to do it, we need to do it the right way. So that's just my opinion. I see no more urgency today than there was 5.5 years ago.
I saw urgency 5 years ago, and it's one of the first things we started collaborating on 3.5 years ago is the necessity to make sure we are ADA accessible. And as the laws have changed that we are standing in liability, it's beginning to be a pertinent issue of either we forward the process.
I'm ready to move forward with all of it right now. Put it on the vote.
Well, and here's the thing, you have a valid point when you talk. I know it's frustrating because it has been talked about so much, but back to what Commissioner Bassell was saying is you can still, we're inviting school groups in to come into this classroom. There is a necessity. You are opening up I think they've had some really successful jamboree sessions out there, different programs. Fishing rodeo, the lake, they can still access it. They just aren't able to walk around it.
How to drive a wheelchair all the way down to the
Well, no,
lake.
you can access the.
Can't do it.
well, there was a bridge there that you pull up, you can go to. I'm not saying it's easy, I'm not saying that. But you can fish from that decking area. It's not saying one project's better, and I mean, they all need to be done. I'm not saying that.
If I can add this to it, if I may.
Prioritize, though.
The item is discuss or take action on update on ADA Trail at Bowie Park by Commissioner Johnson. I'll make the amendment that would make this update on the ADA trails for the section that we're talking about and Lake Vance at the same time.
We don't have a motion for an amendment yet.
If I can make a motion, though, and then we can.
I thought that wasn't.
We haven't gotten a motion yet, sir.
Okay, we'll do it in due time.
Okay. It's going to be lengthy, and I apologize.
I'm sorry.
But the first part of my motion is that we begin the bid process, just like we did on the other items, to see not just Will's estimate, but see exactly what somebody will build the ADA trail for us to Joanne's classroom. At the second time, then we'll deal with whether we want to accept that bid or not. The second part of my motion is that I understand Commissioner Sutton's frustration and how long we've talked about this and how much passion he has around this. I want to be supportive of that. That we take one shot. We delay it another 6 months, we get our ducks in the row, and we take the shot that Mr. Umber has talked about for the grant. And then if we don't get the grant, where we're only putting up 20%, that this board take action to build the trail and absorb the cost. So that's my motion. That's how to deal with it.
So if we don't get the grant,
Right.
it goes on the agenda.
Action necessary to apply for the grant. If we don't get the grant, we still build the trail next year.
We pay for it.
We pay for it.
And it's not worded as that, but this is the trail just for the classroom.
No.
No. The first part is go ahead and put the bids out for the classroom.
Okay.
The second part is for the Lake Van Trail to get our ducks in a row. If that means we have to get some bids, we have to get bids for that. But for us to apply for the grant, and if we get the grant, we build it with the grant money plus what we have to give.
The entire project, trails and all.
Right, for Lake Van.
I just want to make sure.
If we don't get the grant money, we still build it.
Okay.
But it's
Second.
It's waiting for the grant, to try the grant process one more time to see if we can get some of that cost paid for. Because that's going to be a lot more costly than just what Mr. Umber was talking about to get us at the ADA trail.
I'd like to amend the motion that we move forward on the 5-foot sidewalks at $25,000 paid for out of the Park Bowie Fund for the ADA trail to Joanne's classroom.
Second.
Discussion?
But don't we have to put it out for bid first, because that's just Will's estimate? I mean, I agree with you, but don't we have to follow the process? Don't we have to get the bids before we can say it's 25? Then if it's 27, where are we? What do you think?
The bid has got to take place. My motion was to approve up to $25,000 for a 5-foot sidewalk for an ADA trail out of the Bowie Park funds for Joanne's classroom access.
I didn't hear the up to, I just heard 25,000, so.
And I'll
But either way,
clarify.
I mean, I just want to move the process forward.
Other discussion?
On your original motion, my only hang-up was I was following you until, resubmitting the grant for the grant process, but paying it out of our pocket, time this is delayed, it was already, 2 options of 300,000 or 600,000. I mean, we've already paid for all this to be done. That's a lot of money considering our budget is as tight as it is, and I'm not sure, it's borderline. There wouldn't be enough after we get through buying the truck and the shed, that we wouldn't have enough to pay for that in full out of the Bowie Park Fund. So my question would then be, where, if we made that in our motion, then where would the money come from? So I tend to think let's move forward with one, and then if somebody wants to, at a later date, resubmit the, giving Mr. Humber permission to move forward to seek the grant again, then I could see that. But to sit here in a motion and say we would pay for the costs, because I'm sure the cost has changed. It went up major from one year to the next, so I'm just not sure that we'd have the money in the Bowie Park Fund.
Well, I understand. I don't think we'll have the money in the Bowie Park Fund. That's my point. I think that the city will be buying either putting up the 20% or putting up the 100% to build the trail. That's what I think will happen, but I think what it does is it gives us a year of planning to do that, and hopefully with the budget cuts that we're talking about and everything else, by then our financial picture will be that we could make that investment versus now. I'm just trying to empathize and be supportive of Commissioner Sutton, because I can understand the frustration of trying to get this started, and we've really not made a commitment to put it on the books and say we are going to do this, and that's what I'm really trying to get accomplished here, is a commitment to my fellow commissioner that the time has come for us to be serious about it. And so if we obligate ourselves to it, we can always de-obligate ourselves. That's the, I guess, good or the bad of majority rule up here. But the idea is that we then work toward it because we've set ourselves up as an obligation.
I don't know how much, and that's a valid point, I don't know how much we could actually say that we weren't committed, because we went, paid for engineering drawings, we went through the whole process, and then decided up here that we were gonna let that grant go. So basically, I think we were pretty committed, but in the meeting, at some point in discussion, that it came that wasn't, a top priority. So I'm just wanting to make sure that we're not spinning our wheels again, and then also how it would even be funded.
Well, I think, just to add to that, I think you're right. I think that's a pretty good accounting of what happened. What I think messed us up was the grand and glorious cost, because we had at somebody's suggestion, and I believe it was the state grant people, I don't think it was a local suggestion, we wound up putting that Greenway project and this Lake Van project together. And that's how we originally went in, and when they kicked it back and said, no, we'll only do the Greenway, then we changed our focus to that Greenway project, which since that time we have killed. So I think that we need this is a sizable commitment, and I think we need some time to plan for it. But I don't take that commitment lightly. I meant what I said, that we would address the issue. If we didn't get the grant, we would make something happen. We would address the issue whether we get the grant or not, because enough time has passed. But in the interim, I'm totally supportive of where the mayor's trying to go with the ADA trail for the classroom, because that seems to be where it's picked up, and I think we need to invest that, and we do have the money in the Bowie Fund to afford that.
Other discussion?
Larry, how will setting the cap on the bid process work? Will that be a part of the notice we send out, that your bid cannot exceed $25,000?
Yeah, I mean, for it to be properly, for them to have notice, says that there's $25,000 appropriated for this or suggested for this, or no bid will be accepted that's over $25,000, so that everybody knows going in. If I'm a guy and I go look at it and I say, I can't do this for $25,000, I don't waste my time putting in a bid.
Sounds fair.
Other discussion?
So there is a cap on it.
On her amendment, up to.
Other discussion? All those in favor?
I wasn't quite through it. I just want to make sure, because on your
Other
amendment, you didn't-
discussion?
Yeah, you didn't mention up to $25,000.
Yes, sir, I did.
So that is the cap on it. Okay, go ahead.
Other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have the original motion on the floor.
Well, now that we've dealt with the Joanne's classroom, I'm not sure the first.
We don't have the agenda item to deal with the other one, so have you withdraw the motion?
So I'll have to.
That is completely incorrect. My agenda item was for the Lake Bend Trail that Commissioner Sutton has been for all the time. That's the reason that the pavilion was not on there, because I did not realize until after the agenda that had already gone out, and I met with Al on Friday and then the Friends on Saturday, that those, so if that's how we were going to work it, I thought it was broad enough to cover both based on what we were doing tonight, but the ADA trail that I put on the agenda for tonight was around the lake.
Well, without any information, how was we supposed to discuss that item, sir?
But isn't it worded to just say ADA trails at Bowie Park?
So my motion is appropriate,
Yes,
and the
but
vote
I
is
think-
appropriate.
And yours is as
And I
well.
think the second half of mine is as well.
That's
because
correct.
it's talking about an ADA trail at Bowie Park.
But you doubled them together, so at that
Right,
point, we
so-
need to
so I'm
either
gonna
withdraw
it and restate my motion.
Thank you.
But I don't recall you mentioning the other ADA trail when you talked about meeting with the Friends in your original, when you brought the subject up. I don't know. Somebody can correct me if you did.
It wouldn't matter, because the agenda item says ADA trail at Bowie Park. If either one of those are not ADA trails, then it's not proper. If it's an ADA trail and it's in Bowie Park, if it's one trail, two trails, half a dozen trails, you're okay.
So here is my motion restated. I make a motion that we aggressively pursue the grant money for an ADA trail around Lake Van. And if we receive a grant, we fund our portion of that to build the trail. If we do not receive a grant, that we determine the feasibility of doing it on our own, but that we do not continue to defer it, that we actually make a decision up or down in the, after the grant process is over. So we're not committed to build it all on our own, but we are committed to, if we don't get the grant, to up or down and be done with it.
And how much time?
Huh?
How much time?
As soon as we hear on the grant. But if we get the grant, we build it. We find the money and we build it.
That's an undetermined amount at this point. An estimation of 300,000 is a year ago on the plans by Griggs and Maloney.
I think it was higher than that.
It was 600 for the double project, 625 something for the double project. The project was then separated, and it was 280 to 300,000 on the around Lake Van. Something.
I believe it was 600,000 figure came out for just Lake Van. It went from 160,000 that we approved the money for and set aside for, and for 2 years. Y'all weren't here necessarily, I don't think the whole time, but we were told it's ready, we're waiting on this, this, and this. We were told we have the city engineer approved it and put plans out there for it, and that
There are
was,
plans currently that have been paid for that should be able to be utilized if the grant allows it. they
That's
may.
what I wanted to address. I had
Yeah.
already given y'all an estimate on what Will had said that it would cost to update the current plan. He said somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000, he could bring it up to date. So I have that in my office whenever I have direction to go forward,
Do you have ability to spend $1,000 or $2,000?
if Tom will let me.
Well, I think there's a freeze, so
So that nullifies that process.
I can get,
I'm just saying, I know what it does. It just exactly that. It nullifies the process.
we have a motion and a second.
I don't think anybody seconded.
Did anyone second?
I'll second it for discussion. I mean, I think you pretty much took off the part where we were committed to purchase it.
Well, I think you make a good point that it's hard to forecast a year down the road, but again, we need to be aggressive in the pursuit of this grant because we have worked this issue for a long, or not worked this issue for quite some time, and we need to move forward. I mean, we really do need to decide, and if we decide, we need to figure out a way to pay for it, and hopefully the grant can provide most of that.
We're still in discussion.
Discussion.
And my only problem, I voted for the 25,000 cap on it, but my misunderstanding is why is it so urgent today and it hasn't been for over 5.5 years,
And the earlier motion.
period.
I can go back 3.5 years that I've been presenting ADA access to the Joanne's classroom, and we're still here discussing it, so I really have the same question, sir.
Well, I got 3.5 more years on you, so.
What would be the
We didn't
cost?
get anything moved on that project. I'm just trying to think of what the difference is all of a sudden in liability when there's been handicapped people in the park all along.
Well, one of the
It was
first
3
facts
years
would
ago
be you
before
can
we were
afford
put
it.
handicap accessibility to the bathrooms.
One of the first facts would be you can afford it.
We
So
could
the
afford it
difference-
at $160,000 because at the time there was $500,000 in the fund.
That was before my time. Mr. Hubner,
Y'all
do you
should
have a
have done it.
cost of what it costs to apply for the grant? The LPRF grant is waiting on us to ask. They've been very gracious working with us, going back and forth over the several years on this project. So I know Mr. Hall has talked to them in length, and them saying, please present back. We've missed the deadline, so
Right.
we're going to try to move forward on this project that we all believe is a very valuable thing for our park. Do
Right.
you have an estimate of the cost to
Do we
apply
have-
for the grant?
Do we have everything that Will needs to provide?
yes.
So it'd be minimal cost to reapply.
So minimal is an unknown factor also, correct?
Well, that just means.
You
we
got some
would-
minimals
I
and
don't-
some not,
I don't
some count, some
anticipate-
don't count.
I don't anticipate hiring or contracting with,
The surveying's been done, that's already been paid for, the engineering's already been paid for. That's part of the engineering fees that we've gone over in the park already,
For what section, let me ask you that?
for Lake Van.
Lake Van and
Okay.
I
ADA.
think the engineering alone was like $27,000. That's already been paid for. So it's sitting in there, collecting dust, and nothing being done about it.
And something needs to be done for that money spent, so I'm totally in support
That's
of
where
trying to
we're
move
at,
forward.
And like I said, I got the update from Will. He said it'd take $1,000 to $2,000 to bring it up to date. Therefore, leaving Frank open then to go back to the grant process and see how quick we can get it moved forward.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I could, real quick, I hope everybody in this building loves the park. But I want them to be mindful of the fact that you had 2 state entities and a private university that turned this down for this reason. For the fighting and the bickering, and you couldn't get anything done, and the upkeep and the maintenance and the cost it was going to be for perpetuity. And that's why Vanderbilt, the state of Tennessee, and the University of Tennessee all turned it down. So I just wanted to make that point.
Well, let me see if I can withdraw my motion and uncomplicate it. Because I think Brandy's running out of ink.
But we're talking slower now, Brandon, it's late.
My motion is simply that we aggressively pursue the grant process, and that if the grant is approved, we will find a way to fund our 20% of it.
And if not?
We're not going there yet. Just simply, we will aggressively pursue the grant process. If the grant is approved, we will find a way to fund our 20% of it.
We have a motion on the floor. An unknown number. Motion on the floor.
I'll second it for discussion.
My comments would be it's an unknown number, it's an uncapped number, and we go find it and we can't find it. How does that sit with your motion? It's not there and we're in the red and we're borrowing money to pay the payroll. How are we going to go find it just arbitrarily? I mean, you had me up to we'll do it because we don't even know what it is. We have estimates.
To say we'll make that decision once we see what our commitment is. You can amend it. I just want us to really go after it with the idea that we're going to do it. We're not going to hem all around.
Amend the motion that we'll move forward on the grant proposal and that we will evaluate the cost of the estimate for final decision. Did I say that clear?
Yes, that's clear.
Second.
So you're basing that on the current engineer's estimate that we have, split away from the two things we had together?
He has to reevaluate it. It's not been reevaluated yet.
$2,000.
Let me say this, the LPRF grant that was turned back was a 50-50 grant. We'll be applying for an 80-20 grant. And so hopefully that'll help the situation, because that was what was the problem with the Greenway grant, was it was going to cost too much money out of the city to go forward with that. But we're going to be applying for any 80-20s or any 100% grants we can find.
Discussion?
Yes, ma'am. One more question on your motion. Does it include whatever the new estimate that the engineer puts on this project? If it's $340,000, is that what we're saying our cap is?
I'm not capping, I'm asking for him to bring it back so we can discuss what the cost is. We have a grant. I didn't have any monetary amount on that because it's not been delivered yet.
Is this on both projects?
They're separate. They're done separate.
The first project's already been voted on, that we move forward on that.
By the Bowie Park Fund.
This one is saying we're moving forward to see if we can afford it and hope to get the grant to cover 80%.
Since it's not my motion or anything else, I feel like it's still useless to do it because it's not going to be it's something that we're going to have to commit to doing, period, in the future if we want to make it handicap accessible. If we don't, we're not going to. We can go for 5 years. We probably had a cost increase of 15% per year on any project we've done. 5 times 15 is 75% increase in it, just in us sitting up here not doing nothing. And if you don't want to do it, don't make waves about it. Just say, I don't want to do it, and go move forward.
I'm favorable of getting it done. There's a motion to move forward, and you seem to maybe have another idea. Would you like to speak or amend?
The other idea is to go ahead and get it done like it's supposed to be done 5 years ago, but I know that we're not going to vote. I'm not going to vote on $600,000 tonight to get it done because it's not in the budget.
But you can't hold that against us because we did not say, you had plenty of opportunity, the 3 of you, or 4 of you, to vote it. I'm just saying.
Are you excluding the 2 of you from a decision?
No, I'm saying,
the 3 of you.
And then I said, or the 4 of you. However, I'm saying is, I understand your point. I hear your frustration, but the program did not stop because of one of us. It's a majority. 3 people had to vote to stop the program.
I
And then
was
you
not
had
one of them.
plenty of opportunity. You started this conversation way
Absolutely.
before.
Absolutely. I started it 5.5 years ago, was lied to on repeated, I got 2 more people that were here, not necessarily you, that it was coming, it was ready. We got engineering on it, we're fixing to start working on it tomorrow, which by then increased the cost up to whatever the case may be on it. And we've had plenty of opportunities since then to do something about it. I've seen no further action until we talk about the trail going back to the school part of it. So I'll give the proper people the explanations. So y'all go right ahead and vote. I'm through.
Well, I understand your frustration.
No, you don't, because you weren't here when I started it. And I'm just passionate about it, and go ahead.
I do understand your frustration of being held back. Yes, sir, I do. And the city having a holdup on progress. Yes, sir, I do.
Mayor.
Other discussion?
Mayor, could I ask a question of legal? The mayor has brought up the fact that we could be in jeopardy right now of not allowing access to parts of our park. Tomorrow, next month, 6 months from now, if someone comes in or they filed an ADA compliance request for us saying that they can't access our lake, are we liable at that point? Would we have to then immediately approve the project?
Well, it would depend on what came out of the litigation. The threshold question you have to answer in any ADA complaint, first of all, is what is a reasonable concession or a reasonable effort to fix the situation. You don't have to fix every situation, and what's reasonable for New York City may not be reasonable for Fairview. If Fairview had $10 million or $10 billion in reserves, then probably you would have a tough chance of defending this, saying that it was going to cost $300,000 and we couldn't afford it. Larger cities, of course, they have more things to deal with too, but a reasonable concession is almost determined every time on a case-by-case basis. If one of the things you can do to help that type of situation is put up a sign that says, if you have, if you need handicap assistance, call this person at this number. Now, I know you can't go down there and probably carry this forever, but on any particular day, how many people you're going to have there. Another thing that would have to be determined is what exactly is being denied. In other words, you could look at the whole park and say, you know, you don't have access to the whole park for handicap. We don't have access to the whole park for anybody, because there's some places out there that would probably be, I haven't been out there, but I'm sure there's some places out there from looking at the topo of it that would be pretty hard for anybody to get to. So it's a totally thing that has to be on a reasonable basis. And what generally happens is, if the thing goes to a trial, a lot of them get settled before then, but they look at the situation, what could have been done, what has been done, and you'll have a court order that says you will do this to make this available. Now, if it was some trail that says it goes into the middle of the park where nobody goes now anyway, you wouldn't have much chance of winning that. But you're always subject to ADA compliance issues, and some of them you may not even know about. I mean, I saw a suit one time where you had, you know, like a handicap ramp here and a handicap ramp here, and somebody filed a complaint because I didn't have one in the middle of it. And the court in that particular instance said, well, you know, you got one that's 100 feet up here and one's 100 feet down here, go use it. But, you know, that's not the case out there. But it would have to be looked at on an individual basis, and I think the best thing that you can possibly do is move ahead with all the diligence that you can. You can't get it fixed by tomorrow, that's for sure, or next week. But you are, at least if somebody files a complaint, you do have some defense in that you're seeking bids for this, you're doing this. It's not like you're just totally callous to the whole idea. I can't answer your question directly because you don't know until that particular complaint comes.
Okay.
Other discussion? Could you restate the motion, Ms. Johnson?
Your amendment to the motion was to move forward on the grant proposal and evaluate the cost estimate for a final decision.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The original motion, please.
I think we negated.
We did negate with that.
I'll just
Thank you.
withdraw it and make sure.
All right, everybody ready to move on? The last item, ordinance, discuss and/or take action on Bill 2014-19, ordinance number 841.
It's an ordinance for an amendment to the City of Fairview, Tennessee budget for fiscal year 2013-14 budget. Move for approval.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Next item is the city manager items for discussion. City Manager Hall.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Board of Commissioners. I'm going to yield to Frank Humber on a couple of more grant updates, and then I'd like to come back and give you a couple of updates that I have. Frank?
Thank you, Mr. Hall. The first I want to report on is the Safe Routes to School grant. The present agreement with the state was set to expire in June on this grant. So I requested that the city be given another year extension. And yesterday I found out that we were given a 18-month extension to accomplish that project. We'll recall that this is 100% funding for that grant.
Good deal. Thank you.
The second one I have is the resurfacing grant, and we have been in touch with the Department of, with TDOT, Department of Transportation, and we're waiting for them to tell us what we need to do so that these monies can be allocated or reallocated or whatever is necessary, and we can move forward with that. We're also wanted to inform you that we're not going to wait for them to necessarily contact us. We're going to be contacting them to push that along as quick as we can.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Can I have one question on that?
Sure.
Included in the plans, but I wanted to make sure that, and we brought this up before, it may not happen, I don't know, but we're talking about some safety barriers for Fairview Elementary School along the curve there for where the playground and stuff is at. Is that still in any plans whatsoever anywhere?
I'm trying to gather support for that, and you would be one that I would be interested in going with us to the school board to get permission to do so.
I'll be glad to.
We have several neighbors in that area, and I think Frank would be more than happy to go along with us. That is a very dangerous spot, even though we've got a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit there, but these children play on that playground all during the day, and there's no speed limit other than 35, but you know how that can get exceeded. So.
There again, I've asked for that before, so whatever you can do to help expedite that, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
We're going to pursue that, okay?
You have a strong citizen concern there, and
Yes,
it's been
yes, we do.
expressed for years. Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Yeah, ma'am. Anyway, the other couple of things I'd like to mention. Highway 100 paving is supposed to start next week with the milling, the paving, and the striping. It was promised this past week. It didn't get done, but I finally weaseled out that the paving company had a larger project than this. So that's the usual case, but they have promised that it'll start no later than Tuesday, maybe Monday. So I wanted to give an update on that because several of the commissioners have asked about that, and I know y'all are getting questions on it as well as I am, as well as the police chief. So hopefully that will get going next week. The next thing I'd like to say is we have 8 new businesses. 4 of them are already up and running. Taco Bell is moving along real good.
Is that a two-story Taco Bell?
It looks that way, doesn't it?
Okay, I'm just curious. I've been asked. I didn't know.
But anyway, we have
Mariachi gonna be up there.
we have a Farm Bureau that's supposed to go in over here. We have a pet supply place that's supposed to go in over to Publix complex. That's requesting 6,500 feet. Is that what I'm hearing?
6,500 square feet.
Is that Petco?
No, it's actually
Petway?
tractor supply.
TSC.
I see.
Anyway, my plan for this was, y'all are the guiding factor in this. When these businesses get up, rather than us project them for the budget, I'd like to see this money come in before we have a chance to spend it and go back. Anything that this comes in for that Tom can tell me we've got an overage, I'd like to see it go toward building our reserve back. So that's my plan for that, as long as I've got y'all's blessing on that. And that's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Quick question. I got him, I might as well get you. On the paving part of it, have they adhered to the restriping that we discussed earlier?
Yes,
as far as going all the way up the street?
Yes, sir.
Have we looked at anything else to make it a convenience part of it going the other direction?
Yes, sir.
That's been addressed?
I've addressed that with Mark.
Is it okay?
He's going to do everything he can.
Because that's a safety concern.
That is a very good safety concern, as well as, just like going into to Taco Bell. I personally think it's going to be more of a problem there than it is going into Walmart, but, hopefully we can control it. And Chief Harris has agreed to offer traffic direction up there the day that his paving's being done.
Thank you. Other staff comments this evening?
Mayor, I have a question for the board. In preparing for the 4th of July celebration, I have noticed on the beer permits that have been issued as a special event permit in the past, the requirement has been waived for the survey portion of that event that's normally required on a beer permit. Is that typical? I looked in the minutes and I could not find anything where that was voted on previously, so I just wanted to know, moving forward, is that acceptable?
I believe it has been waived in the past, and only preference for that would be Bowie Park.
Okay.
The location of the park, and I think even with that, we're going to be far enough away from that section back here. But that's just my opinion. I don't know if anybody else remembers that or not.
Those have to go to the beer board anyway.
Yeah.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, it still has to go to the board. I just wanted to make sure that requirement was not included in that.
I don't believe it is.
Okay.
Thank you, Nick's awake. Right.
Here's my sheet.
Now that is last. But we'll just go through this real quick. Month-end revenues, 3.8, expenses 4.5. We have seen a pulse in revenues as far as, I believe sales tax is starting to breathe a little bit. I got numbers in today on what we'll see on the 20th, and they are another step. We're still not running, but we are. It is growing, so I'm glad to see that. Moving on to the month, we're going revenues. Like I said, our sales tax led the way, and I don't know. Let's see, we had $309,768.25. And as far as our expenses, we had $481,655.91. We are still in a spending freeze, but I did have a debt service payment of, let's see, I've got that here. That shot that up. Of $73,790, and also messed up and paid one of the insurance premiums early, so we won't have a health insurance premium next month. So That spiked that just a little bit, but that is, that's about our month of April.
What was the amount of that premium paid?
Should have been right at 30,000. I had in medical insurance expenses of 60.
So the 180,000 more expenses than revenue.
73 of it was a debt payment.
Okay.
And 30,000.
That's what I was looking for, is a big number of logic. Thank you.
Right.
Could I ask?
Yes.
Tom, if you have any update on the information with the auditors or the comptroller's
Yes,
office
yes.
about moving to an accrual system or modified accrual system?
I would like to request what I need to do about getting in contract with our auditors we had last year. I've had a couple of emails as far as going forward with that. I don't know what I need to do. Is it just okay for me to go ahead and say, let's move forward, or? I mean, we have to do the modified accrual and do it by the function is what the MTAS has given me as far as the state. We do have new formats that we're supposed to present our budgets. A lot of stuff is changing. I don't know any different, but it is a lot more work. But they're wanting to look at each municipality across the state and be able to look at their financials and be able to, it be like almost a cookie cutter type format. So did that answer your question or not?
Yeah, pretty much so. I guess my question, y'all understand what Tom and I are talking about with modified accruals, a different system? For the public, it would be that right now we take like our sales tax and we count our sales tax the month we receive it, even though it actually is sales tax from 60 days ago. Under the modified accrual system, the sales tax we received in July and August would be counted against fiscal year 13-14. And then we would, from that point on, our sales tax would then correspond with when it was generated, not when we actually receive it. So that's an accounting change that we would have to undergo and look at that. This year especially, it could be an advantage to us because we would have two extra months of sales tax revenue. But it's a one-time adjustment, and then you run your sales tax runs, in terms of closing out your books, your sales tax runs in to the next because it then aligns with when you approved it versus when you actually received it.
And my comment would be the state has impressed upon all municipalities a new format to be completed. You're given by the state how you're supposed to do your budget. If
correct,
the way he is suggesting is approved by the state, then at that point, yes, it's open for exploration. But if
I'm not suggesting it, I was just defining it.
If the state has a requirement and that doesn't apply, then of course we wouldn't have the option to discuss what the state said to do.
It wouldn't really affect us during our day-to-day accounting, but it could really affect us in our closing accounting and how our books are set.
And you've went to the classes, so I'm not even going to pretend to know, but that's something that I would believe MTAS is directing you on.
And I need to get with the auditors, and it's my first go-round with this, but I believe it's going to work in our benefit.
Now, is your question of whether you call the auditor now?
Yes.
The audit is done after June 30th.
Yes,
and it's usually around December, when November to December, August to December, something like that, and then we're waiting on it in December to January. That's been the last 3 years.
They're planning on being here, I think, the second week of August.
Okay, so after June.
And doing our audit and hopefully
Good.
getting it a lot earlier.
Excellent.
And,
You cannot just renew their contract, though. You need to put it out for bid and then bring the bids back to us. That's the way
so
we've always done it.
we won't, how many do I need to get, or do we want to stay with somebody for a few years, or at least, I mean, I don't know the process.
Well, Ms. Pewitt offered to us if we wanted to solicit for a auditor. She then gave a recommendation to the city manager. The city manager then presented to us to go out to bid for that contract labor. We then went out for contract bid, and then we had 3 bids and discussed which one we felt was favorable for the city, and we voted on it. But we haven't done that every year. That was just that one time.
I don't remember that. I just remember we did.
She
We just went out and did last time. We did.
And that was because we did an alternate change by the request of the staff. But the years before, there was just
We just rolled it over.
call-in for the audit that's on staff unless someone has any issues.
Good with me.
I've got an email saying I need to go on the comptroller's e-contract and go through a process to get the contract going. So I kind of wanted to get advisement on what I need to do as far as that goes.
I would suggest MTAS direct you, city manager, and you be directed by MTAS if you're unsure of how to do the contract that's new. And there's probably a lot of people like you asking questions because it wasn't done last year that way by the comptroller of the state of Tennessee.
But the board's okay for me to go ahead and start that process?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Just my only recommendation is it's probably not a bad idea, every 3 years or whatever, come back and readdress the question, because I don't think it's good practice to stay with the same auditor for what were we, I forgot, 12, 16 years using the same person. So we may want to readdress it every so often, just my suggestion.
Well, unless the comptroller has come out with something in his new accounting system that requires it, auditing is a personal services contract, and you're not required by statute to bid personal services contracts. You're not precluded from bidding personal service contracts, but you're not required to.
Right.
And like you said, it sometimes is good to get fresh eyes looking at things, and then you want to bid it.
Okay, thank you.
Other staff comments? Yes, sir.
Thank you for letting me come back, but I'd be remiss to not thank Tom for his very hard work for the last 3 months on this budget. A lot of his 15-hour days have shown in this. And also the department heads in 5 or 6 meetings that we've had with them. I know this gets frustrating to them, but we all had to come together to move it forward to this point. But I do want to thank Tom for his awful hard work that he's put into this. Thank you a lot.
Thank you.
Just want to give an update on the treescape going along Bowie Lake Road. The guys started putting the trees today, and they should be finished tomorrow. So that project is moving on there. We also have the Free Fishing Rodeo, June 7th at Veterans Memorial Park at Evergreen Lake from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Are we going to be stocking that?
Yes. Okay. And I also just wanted to let the citizens know to be very cautious out there. Come Monday, the street department will be starting their right-of-way cuttings. And just ask that you guys pay attention and please slow down for them.
Thank you. Other staff comments this evening? Be no other staff comments. City Attorney comments.
Thank you, Mayor. I promise at the hour I'll be short. I will be shorter than everyone except Miss Brandy. I have 2 items of information that I'd like to pass along to the board tonight. The first one is I received a copy of a letter from Ms. Beard, the Election Commission, relative to the general election in Tuesday, November 4th, 2014, which will be our city election. And I will tell the board that at the next meeting, I will have the necessary resolution to, if that be the board's wishes, and I'm pretty sure it is, to set our election to coincide with that election and have the other information in there that she needs, and we'll get it approved, get a certified copy up and get it off to her, so we'll be in good shape for the election. Second thing I have, and the last thing, there was and I put this out for information because I won't elaborate on it because the opinion is from the United States Supreme Court, and it's about 80 pages, and I'm certainly not going to go into that 80 pages, but it's a case called Town of Greece, New York versus Galloway. It's out of the Federal Second Circuit. The reason I bring it up is this is the first one that's reached the Supreme Court, and by the way, that was just decided the 5th of this year. The reason I bring it up is being the first case that was decided relative to opening a legislative session with a prayer. Different states have decided differently on this same issue, and I think that's probably the reason it finally got to the U.S. Supreme Court. And they were saying that the proponents were saying that opening a legislative session with a prayer was a violation of the Establishment Clause, in that the parties that were doing this was trying to establish a religion. The Supreme Court said they ruled that is perfectly legitimate to open your sessions with a prayer if you want to, that it does not violate the Establishment Clause as long as the entity that's doing it selects their people that says the prayers just at random or from across the board. If you started, and they gave that as an example, if you started only letting one religion open the session that you knew about, then you would have a problem. But I wanted to pass it along to you, that because I've wondered for years, you see these happening in different states, and one has one ruling, another has another ruling, so now we're all on the same page. It is perfectly legitimate to open your session with a prayer. I have one other, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Do you have a question?
Do you know what the vote was on that?
I'm thinking...
It was 5-4.
I was thinking it was 5-4.
And it was straight down party lines.
Yeah. I was thinking, I was going to say 5-4. I didn't look at that recently, but I knew it was close. I had one other thing that I'll pass along, is my attempt at humor at this late hour of the night. You guys were sitting up there level with him when I mentioned the thing that I had spent a considerable amount of time and was not going to charge the city for it. My good friend, Commissioner Bissell, you should have seen his face. He didn't believe it. But you can check my bill, it's not on there. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments from the commissioners?
Well, I have a question for the city attorney.
Sorry, go ahead.
I just had a question about the truck and the bid process. We ran into this mistake when it came to the police cars, and I didn't notice any other bid. So the way the motion was tonight, I'm not sure that we...
The information that I have, was that this is coming off the state contract. And if it's off the
and
state
we don't
contract,
have to bid that
you're
the state...
authorized by statute to take it, because the state bids this.
Okay.
And they're assuming the legislative intent was that if that was their low bid, you're allowed to accept that as your low bid.
Okay.
So you don't
I
have
just
to
wanted to make sure we weren't going to go down the same road and didn't catch it while we were talking about it.
No, the police cars, my memory was not on a state bid. This was on a state bid, if I'm not correct. It was state bid, so you don't have to get other competitive bids.
Communication from the commissioners. Commissioner Bissell.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick update on the two projects that I've been stewarding for a while. If you haven't been by the History Village, there's been progress made. The wiring has been run. I don't know if it's turned on yet over at the building, but it's been down under the ground and covered over, and the sidewalks are built. They've framed up for the handicap parking spots. They've got rocks out there and got the dugout already done for all the other stuff. So it's coming along on the proper time frame. The second item, I met with, was it today or yesterday, Frank, that we talked about the streetlights? But
Jeremy.
I met with Frank about the streetlight project and provided him with the maps showing what we had approved. Told him he couldn't incur any money until after the 1st of July, but it'll take MTEC that long to get cranked up to get them done. So we're pretty much at the point of just moving along with the second phase of the streetlights, which should add a little different character for a lot of subdivisions. So that's an accomplishment. I know we've all been supportive of that and been working on that for a couple, 3 years now. So phase 2 is in motion and should be, we should start to see that right after the first of the fiscal year. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Carroll.
Be nice. I like that motto. No, really, I really am thankful for the city staff and their works to move things forward. And I know sometimes it does seem that projects take forever, and I don't know if that's normal government or just our government, but I think it's pretty normal. Now, somebody may correct me, but I do appreciate that in this healing process of trying to recover from our budget and taking a real conservative route, I appreciate having staff that really gets behind that and supports it and wants what's best for the city. I know a lot of times when you look at your budget and you think you were allotted this much money, it's probably disheartening at the end of the year to find out that you're not going to get to spend all the money that was allotted to you. So I applaud them really for taking that hard look. I really look forward to seeing us take a different approach next year, and I think that we're on the right track, even though I know a lot of discussions go back and forth. But I really do believe the only way to get back on track is to cut spending, build back up our reserves, and then we can take on more projects. But until then, all we need to do is focus on the projects we have, finishing what we can within the money that we have, and to me, that just makes sense. So I applaud city employees for what you're doing and trying to help us in that direction.
Thank you. Commissioner Sutton.
Just a couple of things, just for housekeeping. Everybody wasn't here earlier. I'd like to bring up the point that we have two individuals that stuck out this hour until 10:30 at night, so I'd be remiss not to recognize them. Mr. Burks and Mr. Dryer, if you'll stand for just a second, please. If not, everybody's gone to sleep tonight in the viewing audience. Both of these gentlemen are running for our Fairview City judge position that's come open because of Tom Taylor has decided and has effectively won the election of the General Sessions Judgeship in Division 2. Am I correct? The Williamson County General Sessions one. So thank y'all for coming out tonight. Anytime you have any questions for either one of the candidates, I'm sure they'll be willing to answer them for you. You probably both have some websites and stuff where they can. So thank y'all for coming out again tonight. And Ms. Oxford had to leave a little bit earlier, but she was here also. The next thing I'm just is a statement. I feel extremely, y'all probably recognize that tonight. I am very strongly about Dr. Bowie's gift to this city was not just to the healthy and the people that can enjoy everything with the bikes and the horses and everything else. And my efforts will continue to do the 88 trail for as much as we can possibly do it so that they can enjoy as much as the park as possible. And there's some parts of it they'll never be able to enjoy just because of the terrain, and I understand that. But I believe her intent was for everybody to enjoy that park and not just the healthy. The third thing and the final thing I've got, besides thanking everybody, Tom, for your budget work, everybody for all the work that they do, and I'll talk to you about that car situation when we're through. We finally had some closure tonight on a situation with the subdivision. The mayor read the results from it, and I concur with those results. That's the findings that we asked for. That's the findings that we got. But I do want to apologize to the citizens of Fairview because I feel in my heart that it came before the full planning commission, that's everybody that was on the planning commission at that time, that we would not have allowed a gravel subdivision inside the city limits of Fairview. That's a step backwards to me. It was an error that was due to city personnel that was done on the departments, but I do want to apologize for that because that's not the direction that I want the city to go in. I don't think anybody up here does. Thank you. That's all I got.
Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. Tom, you get to go home early tonight. For those that don't know, he's been staying till 11 o'clock, probably 5 of the 6 last working days. So he's going to get to go home at 10:30, it looks like. Thank you.
I would like to highlight that we're having a Fairview Memorial Day celebration, a ceremony at Hudgens Cemetery, May 26th at 9 a.m. for those that would be interested. Would also like to ask the city attorney's direction of posting the investigation for public viewing on the website. Is that appropriate?
It's up to the board. It's a public document. All the citizens have a right to see it if they come down and ask for a copy and they want to pay for the copy. If the board feels like it should be put on the website, it's discretionary. It's not required. The Open Records Act does not require you to post anything on the website. So that would be a board call.
It would not be a city manager call?
The city manager could do that if he wanted. If the board suggested that, he could do it without a board vote. But if the board wants to consider it and make that finding, then it'd have to be put on the agenda.
But the city manager can do that?
The city manager can do that.
Without board approval?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm giving my permission if that's something that you choose to do, that I would have no negatives to that.
Because it's public document. Anybody's entitled to come in during normal business hours and sit down and view it at no charge. If you want a copy of it, you got to fill out a request and pay 15 cents a copy. But it being a public document, if the city manager wants to put it on the website, that's his prerogative. If he don't want to put it on the website, then that's also, I'm not trying to be funny, but that's also his prerogative.
I'll entertain a motion for adjournment this evening.
Move to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for your attention.